Hey, everybody, welcome to the Modern Squid Podcast, where we get to know the people behind our favorite writers and brands. Before we start this episode, I'd like to apologize for a couple of things. There wasn't an episode last week due to a few unfortunate incidents. The first being that the person I was supposed to interview had decided that she wasn't quite ready yet to go over some of the stuff in her life, and so she asked if we could do this another time, and I agreed, of course. My backup interview also had rescheduled, and then I had a death in the family on Sunday, so I wasn't able to get this particular episode out a bit quicker for you guys. The second thing is that my cat has been extra vocal on this episode, primarily towards the beginning, and then she quiets down. But with that, I wanted to let you know that the current episode is going to be Brandon Bicasso from YouTube fame. And if you don't know his work, hopefully you'll check him out. All right. Well, how's it going, Brandon? How's the week treating you?
It's good, man. It's been very long but rewarding, but I can't complain.
Good. I mean, I assume then by that statement, you are not one of the many folks in the country that have had some layoffs or anything that happened.
No, man. I'm very fortunate to be essential, I guess, in my field. So, I go to work every day.
Okay, so well, that's great, especially in times like that. I mean, it's always good to have a job, right? But like in 2020, it seems like the economy for a lot of people just got hammered, So
yeah, you're an accountant, right?
Well, yeah. So I'm an accounting manager as my day job. It's a little bit different than, because when I tell people accountant, they think like tax accountant, or they think like CPA with, those types of firms.
It's also more like CPA or staff accountant or something like that.
Yeah. So I do, I tell people I'm an accounting manager because basically I just manage an accounting department at a small company. It's a little bit different. Like we hire a CPA to do our taxes and do some of the other stuff, but we're day-to-day operations, AR, AP, general ledger type stuff, the financials for the different, ownership and such.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not what people typically imagine when you say just straight accountant. I always get people asking me if I can do their taxes.
I'm sure it's still incredibly stressful, like numbers and all that. So, yeah.
It is somewhat stressful, but it's one of those things where every job has its stresses, and as long as you're working with good people, it can really make a big difference. And I work with a lot of good people, so
yeah, absolutely. That's a good way of putting it.
So, in most of my interviews, I am like a private investigator, and I just track down every piece of information I can about people. But primarily, they make it easy for me because they've got a pretty open social media presence. Mm-hmm. But you seem to be pretty locked down, except for basically the same sort of content that you're putting out on your YouTube. So it's like if I find your Facebook, I think the only public posts are YouTube related, or if I find like an Instagram or a Twitter, it's all kind of YouTube related. None of it's all that personal. Yeah.
Well, have you figured out why?
It's probably a different name or something, right? Like Bicasso
is not my last name. No, I try to keep it separate because that's just easier for me. But sure. I mean, if somebody really wanted to know my last name, they don't have to. Obviously, no offense to you, you're not really a good investigator.
The thing is, you've got 5 years worth of videos, okay?
Oh, that's true.
And so you probably have said it at some point, but I didn't get through 5 years worth of videos, so
no, I understand. No, it's I kind of leave it out there as a little nugget, kind of like I don't know if you ever heard of Marquise Brownlee, MKBHD, one of the top tech YouTubers. So like a lot of people wanted to know what his, not his last name, but his middle name, because it's the M. Yeah, his name is Marquise Brownlee, but it's MKB, and a lot of people want to know what's the K, and he never really tells people. It's out there. You just got to figure it out.
Yeah.
I kind of just leave it open to it's out there. I figure it out. Well, I'm sorry that, like had I known, I probably would have, if that's what was coming, I guess I could have added you as a friend or whatever, but I'm sorry.
No worries. It's it's going to just make it a little bit more interesting, even for me, because, well, a little more surprising, I should say, because most of the time I go in and I have sort of like a series of questions I'll ask to lead to something else that I want you to talk about, in kind of a roundabout way to make it more conversational. It's just now I'm going to be flying by ear a little bit more than typical, which is also fun. Yeah. So
absolutely.
Let me ask you this then. What do you mind saying, like, what type of work you do as your day job?
Yeah. So I am a system administrator for a local law firm. I've been there 8 years. And when I'm not doing YouTube, that's where I'm at for 9 hours of the day. And a lot of times after work, I'm at home doing work too. So yeah, I'm a sysadmin.
Very cool. My my ex-wife was a sysadmin for years, and now she's an IT director. So, keep at it. You'll be an IT director too.
I've had the opportunity to do that, and I've realized I don't like the added stress personally, and I like, in most cases, for my job to end after 5.
Yeah, I think
unless something really happens. But
in her case, I think it was the managing people aspect that she had to adjust to the most, because as she's kind of more of a stereotypical IT person, where she's a bit more introverted. And likes to like just kind of sit down and work and do stuff on her own to some extent. And so throwing in the managing people aspect was just a whole new world.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, that's definitely part of it, man, because a lot of IT people are definitely hard to talk to. And
you don't strike me as having that problem, though.
I've been told that quite a bit, actually, that I'm more of a sociable IT person. But I mean, I know of IT people that are sociable, but they're still hard to talk to because they don't know how to turn off the IT part to explain something. They go too far into detailing, like, hey, I just wanted to know if it's fixed. Then you go into the whole detail on how you fixed it versus saying, hey, it's fixed, or this is what happened, but here we are. Yeah.
So do you think that YouTube has sort of helped you learn to communicate in a different way with people that makes your IT side a little bit more accessible too? Or do you think that's just naturally how you are?
I think it's a little bit of both. I've always been very sociable. I kind of consider myself intro extro. I love being an extrovert, but I also like my alone time. Mm-hmm. But, YouTube's definitely helped me a lot because a lot of people think it's easy to point a camera at your face and talk. But when you're doing it, especially when you're in public around other people and people are looking at you doing it, it's a whole different ballgame. But no, it definitely helped me break out of my shell to, I guess, worrying about what people think of you when you're out in public, or what, or just what people think of you in general. No, it's totally different ballgame. So no, it definitely helps. Absolutely. Even this, I mean, I still think video conferencing is weird. Sometimes, especially like with strangers.
Yeah.
Especially now it's our first time physically talking to each other, even though it's on video. So, yeah. But you're not a stranger now, but
it's an interesting sort of world we live in, because you don't know me, but I feel like I know a little bit about you just because I've been watching your YouTube videos.
Absolutely.
So for me, this is sort of an extension of YouTube where, I don't have to leave a comment and wait for a reply. I'm just seeing you face to face.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, but it's it's one of those things, at least for me anyway, like talking on video in general has been sort of a challenge, and I've definitely been making an effort to improve my ability to talk on camera and not come across too lost. And
no, you're doing fine.
When you have a lot of cuts that you can do, it makes it a bit easier. But when it's live like this, it's definitely a whole different animal.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Because I can cut this, post, but it still has to make sense. If I ask you a question and you answer it, but I cut out my question, people are going to be like, "What? Well, why is he talking about that? What happened?"
Right. Yeah, for that reason, I don't think I've ever done a live video on YouTube for that reason. It's because of the lack of being able to cut and do stuff like that. But no, that definitely scares me, the live video. I mean, I'll do it on Instagram every now and then, but yeah, YouTube is just like it's just so many more eyes looking. But
see, it's the kind of reverse for me, because I had a small photography business before COVID. And so my photography Instagram, it's not a lot, but it's a lot for me. It's got like 2,500 followers or something. So when I would go live on that, it would feel way more overwhelming than YouTube, where I've got under 100 followers. So it's like I pop in and 4 people show up, you know?
Yeah. No, definitely. But it's scary, man, but you eventually get used to it. It's getting easier, I think, but the more you do it, but there's still that, how are they, what are people thinking in the back of your head? But, it's like a muscle, once you train it, it gets easier.
Yeah. I try to keep that in mind. I mean, it's the same thing with photography. When I first started using Flash, a lot of the pictures were pretty garbage, to be honest. And then you keep practicing and get better. So that's what I'm hoping with YouTube, because I look at your videos right now and the production value is really hitting a level that's making me jealous. And then I have to remember he's been doing this for 5 years.
Man, I still feel like I'm nowhere near where I would like to be, but I appreciate that. A lot of my time outside of filming just goes to just playing around and just figuring stuff out. And just like you said with the flash photography, when I first started taking pictures, my pictures I felt like were garbage. But now when I'm starting to focus more on what makes a good picture, like lighting and placement of the frame and all that kind of stuff, it's a full-time job just trying to figure that kind of stuff out. That's the reason why photography and those are full-scale businesses and people make money off of that. It's work, and I can imagine for you, being an accountant manager and still coming to do that, and then now you're doing this podcast and just I'm sure you're like by the book on your time on how you do stuff.
It takes some, it takes some time management, but I'm lucky enough that I'm working from home. So I don't have any commute time, so all that time that I would have spent getting ready in the morning, and then commuting out to my job and then coming back and doing all that sort of stuff. Basically, that's all now time that I have to spend on other things. So, if I get up at the same time, then I've got a couple hours in the morning I can spend doing something else I need to do, or, in the evening, I gain basically another 45 minutes because I don't have a commute from the office to the house. On the flip side, I'm never really off because everyone knows that I've got my cell phone and my laptop at the house. So
yeah, absolutely.
One of the other things I was noticing is that your voiceover work has kind of taken a bump up too, from like the last year or so. Did you get some new equipment, or are you just like learning more about how to manipulate the sound? Because it's not that your voice has gotten different. It just sounds like it's cleaner, and I guess to some degree your pacing has sort of changed a bit, and it just sounds a lot more professional.
So yeah, it goes back to that filmmaking and trying to be better. I purchased a Yeti microphone. I can't remember when, maybe a little over a year and a half ago, maybe. But I didn't use it initially, and when I did use it, I kept getting that pop. And I see you have a pop filter.
Yeah.
And I bought the pop filter, but then even when I was recording, I wasn't getting the sound that I wanted. I was like, what the hell's going on? So then, I did research, and then YouTube, obviously. And that's when I started playing with the sound in Audacity. So when I record, all I do is I go in and clean up the background audio. So I take a noise profile. All this takes literally 15 seconds to do. I press record, takes like 5 seconds, run it against all of the audio, takes all the background noise out. Then I throw it through the compressor, add some bass and treble, and that is it. And it gives me somewhat of a decent studio sounding audio. Now, granted, it could be better, but for me, I'm always trying to go just a little bit better each video. But thank you for pointing that out. But yeah. I try because I think sound is just as important as visuals, because you can have a pretty video and you can really ruin somebody's attention span just by having bad audio. And I didn't learn that up until recently, or really paid attention to it. But yeah, I realized I don't like watching videos with bad audio. Just don't.
It's really tough. And I think that's probably why it was somewhat noticeable. First of all, you've already got a good voice on video, but your voiceover work, especially, I think the last 2 videos you put out have really been the one where you talked about Sturgis, you know,
really? You thought that was good?
That was pretty good. And then the other one where you were, I think it was the 2 helmets saved your life.
Okay.
Those were good too. And I don't know. I think that I started to really wonder, and I went back through some of the videos, and I was like, I think his audio is getting even better. And I was right. Yeah. I was noticing the difference, you know?
So when I do the voiceover work, I'm using the Yeti, but other than that, I'm filming straight off of my, my Rode Video Micro. But eventually I'm probably going to, because right now, the problem I'm having now is when I'm on camera, it sounds airy because we don't have a lot of pictures and stuff on the walls in our house. So, I'm trying to combat the airiness of the room. And so I'm having to edit out, the background noise. So, but yeah, like I said, nobody's noticed publicly about it, but I appreciate that.
It's specifically the voiceover parts of it, because you're right. Some of the ones where you're a little bit distant from the camera, you can tell that it's not the same audio quality as when you're doing the voiceovers. But that's just super tough to deal with, no matter who you are.
It is. I appreciate that still, though. Yeah. Little attention to the detail.
Well, I'm trying to learn too, you know what I mean? And so you're one of the channels that I really like, and I think you're doing great things. And I'm trying to be like, okay, how is he doing this? And you kind of dissect it a little bit, because I think that you've got a real entertaining aspect to your videos too, because like you were saying about audio being important, well, image quality is important, but the entertainment value is important too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I feel like that's my weakest link right now. Like, I've got confidence that I can, improve my lighting. I've got confidence I can improve my audio, but becoming entertaining, I think that's going to take a lot more work and study,
I wasn't always like that, man. Like, I don't know how far you went back in my video, but, I started out with just a cell phone. I filmed with a cell phone, and then I eventually added the GoPro. And even then, I wasn't doing near as much with the GoPro as what I'm doing now. And it's literally sitting in the same spot, just on my helmet. But it's the after editing to the GoPro footage is what makes the difference, right? So it'll come in time. But I mean, like you said, you look at least my video and try to figure out what I'm doing, and then I do the same thing with other people. Nothing we do is original, right? I look at them like, how are they doing that? Then I'll go frame by frame, like, okay, they're doing that. Oh, okay, I see that now. That's pretty cool. So yeah.
So let's talk about the bikes a little bit. For the people who don't know, you want to run through what bike you have now and what you had in the past?
All right, so I tend to gravitate towards the cruisers, the muscle bikes. I currently own a 2007 Suzuki M109R. I think Middle Easterns and overseas, you guys know that as the Intruder. I've had the Suzuki M50 before. I've had another M109. I've also had a Suzuki GSXR. I've also had a Yamaha FZ07. I've had a Suzuki GSX S1000. I've also had an Indian Scout Bobber. So, yeah, that's it.
Okay. So I've noticed a lot of Suzukis. Is there a reason behind that, other than just at the time that you're looking for bikes, they're the ones that appeal to you the most? Or are you kind of one of the brand loyalists where you just had a good experience and you keep going with it? Or?
They're cheap.
They're cheap. All right, there you go.
They're cheap. No, so a little bit of backstory. When I first started riding, I originally wanted the M109. My uncle had one, and that's what I wanted, but I couldn't afford one. So I settled for the Suzuki M50. Sat on one at a dealer out of nowhere, and I was like, oh, I actually like this. And then, the M50 is the smaller version of the 109. Once I saved up enough, then I upgraded to the 109. And then I wanted something a little bit more sporty. So I walked in the dealer and saw the Yamaha FZ07s in there. I was like, oh, this is cool. Rode it, bought it. Then the Suzuki Gixxer that I had, the 600, I bought it off Craigslist with intent to flip it for profit. It wasn't running. I fixed it, flipped it, sold it for profit. I wish I kept it, but I didn't. Then I went and bought a GSX S1000 new off the floor. And then I had another M109 that turned out to be a dud that I tried to flip. And then I ended up with the Indian Scout Bobber.
Okay. What'd you think of the Indian?
Oh, I love the Indian. I miss my Indian, man. I really like Indian a lot.
Yeah, when I was looking at bikes, it was between what I got now, which is the Iron 883, and then the Indian Scout Bobber. Those were kind of the real contenders in my book, mostly because they were the prettiest bikes I saw out there, within my price range. Because I hate fairings for the most part, so it's like the more fairings a bike has, the uglier it gets to me.
So you're naked.
Oh man, yeah. Anything like as stripped down as it can get. I haven't started doing anything like that on my bike yet, though, because I'm still a new rider. So I'm just like adding on engine guards and things that'll keep me from smashing it up too much when I drop it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
did you buy it new or did you go used?
It was kind of used. So I was going to get a new one. Well, first I started off, I was going to get a used bike. I was looking for something dirt cheap. I didn't care what it was really, as long as it ran. And my cats are playing with my background. Okay.
I saw that.
And the more I started looking at the bikes, I was like, I've had such bad luck with cars that I don't know that I trust myself to pick a bike that's not a dud.
Gotcha.
And at that point I thought, okay, well then I'll get something from the dealership and I'll just go ahead and get new. And I found the bike I wanted. I was negotiating with the dealers. And one of the dealers I'd settled on was like, hey, just as a heads up, we just got this 2019 in with 500 miles on it. And
demo bike.
And it was, significantly cheaper than the new one that I was looking at in 2020.
Absolutely.
It was basically the only difference was 2020 versus 2019. And of course the money was a lot less. So I was like, 500 miles, how much of the warranties that have left? And he checked back, he came back, he's like, still 2 years. And I was like, all right.
Yeah,
I'll take that one.
Yeah.
But the bobbers are beautiful.
Yeah, when I originally bought the Indian, my contender was the Triumph, the Bonneville bobber. But no, I'm 100% down for bikes that have miles on them. Of course, not too much, but factory warranty and all that. Especially you got the previous year, so no depreciation. Well, you missed the depreciation hit, obviously, or as
the biggest hit,
of it. Yeah, but no, absolutely. Right. So, how do you like it so far? The Iron. I've never been on one, so.
Well, it all depends on what you're looking for in a bike. And for me, it's just a fun toy to kind of putz around on.
Right.
I'm not a speed demon, so I don't really care if it goes fast. I think that if you're one of those people that you just want to hop on and go 120 and take twisties as fast as you can and drag your knee, you're going to hate the Iron 83. But if you're like me, you just want something that's fun to ride, that's not too complicated, so that when the warranty's out, if I want to start trying to learn how to work on a bike, it's a pretty simple engine compared to what's out there these days. So I feel like there's opportunity for me to kind of grow on the mechanic side, because right now my knowledge is zero, and I would like it to be different than that, though, because it's a useful skill to have. I don't want to have to buy a brand new bike every time because I'm worried it's going to be a lemon,
Yeah, no, absolutely. I started out that way. I was lucky to have family that kind of guided me as far as like, picking the bike and test riding it for me and everything. But once I got it, I was wide open with it, fixing on it and stuff like that. But there's always something to learn. But even when I had somewhat of knowledge of, owning a bike and then buying another one, thinking that it was a deal, I still got a lemon, so yeah, still got a lemon.
Yeah, I'm pretty financially conservative most of the time. So that's another thing. It's like, I don't feel like rolling the dice on a multiple $1,000 purchase.
We could talk all day about that.
So how did you end up getting into bikes?
Family. I rode briefly like dirt bikes at camp, and then fell into that's a sports bike. I like that. Mom, can I have one? And she was like, no, you don't need a sports bike. And then later on, once my uncle started riding, she was like, okay, he appears to be somewhat safe on it. Maybe it is okay for you to get one. So I saved up, And that's when I started falling in love with cruisers. I was like, dang, that's really cool. I don't necessarily want a sports bike. And plus, at the time, sports bikes for a younger individual, that means your insurance is going to be a lot higher. Well, I don't want to pay a lot for insurance, obviously. So that's when I definitely gravitated more towards the cruiser world. And that's when I started, checking all those out. And I originally wanted a cafe racer, but I didn't have the money to build a cafe racer. So everything's steady pushing me towards cruiser. And that's when my uncle, he upgraded from his first bike to the M109. And that's just like, whoa, I like that. And that's when I, couldn't afford it and got the first bike I got. And then here we are. But I still have that itch. I still have that itch for sports bikes, that itch for naked bikes, that itch for speed every now and then. So, it's still there.
Well, have you heard of N+1?
N+1? No, I have not.
N is the number of bikes you currently have, and then +1 is the equation that takes you to how many you need.
Oh, okay.
So it's always N+1. So it's like, you get your
you never have enough.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I need a sport bike, and then I want an ADV bike, and I want a dirt bike.
Yeah, that's eventually what I feel like I'm going to end up getting towards, because I have, I love riding cruisers, but I have different riding personalities depending on the day. Some days I like to chill. Some days I like to, I wish I could go off road. Some days I wish I could go camping and just, be out there in the hills and the bushes and stuff like that with like a ADV bike.
Mm-hmm.
Having different bikes for different purposes definitely solves that. So I'm definitely an N+1 person. Absolutely.
I mean, I just got my first bike in April, and I'm already thinking about what my next one's going to be, because
it's addictive, man.
Oh yeah, I'm watching like Amanda Zitto right now driving across the country on her ADV bike, and there's a couple other people I follow that have been doing the same thing, and I'm like, man, I love camping and traveling. That would be such a fun way to see the U.S.
And you like traveling, right?
I love traveling. Like pre-COVID, I was doing one trip overseas and one trip in the U.S. basically every year.
Oh wow! And I've never been overseas.
What?
Never. I never really had the financial means for it.
If you can afford a motorcycle, you can afford to go overseas.
I mean, just like you said, like for me, is that lump sum of money. I'm kind of conservative on how I spend, because to me, spending like $200 a month for a bike is different than spending like $2,000 on a trip. And granted, I probably would love the trip more, but for the longer period of time, I look at the motorcycle like this solves a lot more for me. But eventually, I'm gonna I travel. I just haven't traveled outside the States.
No, I get it. But let me give you a tip that I use. You get a travel card, and then you put all of your bills on your credit card, and you pay with all your groceries on your credit card, and then you rack up points.
I'm gonna tell you this. I'm one of those credit card churners that doesn't spend their points.
Yeah, but if you rack up travel points, then you can spend them.
But that's the thing. I feel like I'm wasting the points if it's. I don't know.
I mean, obviously, you're right. No, if you don't use them, then yeah, it's a waste. But that's the deal. Like if you want to travel and you don't feel good about spending that much money in one chunk, get some travel points, man, and then you can.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good tip. That's a good tip.
Feel less bad.
Don't be me, people. Don't be me. One day though, no. I feel like when I do start traveling, it's gonna satisfy a very hidden addictive itch for it, because I do have places I want to go. Like for instance, I want to go to Dublin, Ireland to drink Guinness at the factory. Hey, there's stuff I want to do.
I was there, and it's fantastic. You better start racking up points.
Yeah, I need to start exactly.
As a matter of fact, there's a bar in Dublin called Dice Bar. And
I'm gonna write that down.
You can always message me and ask too. That place left such an impression because it's super, super old. It was like built in like the 1100s or something, or 782 AD. It was some crazy. Oh my gosh, some crazy old. Yeah, my cat's playing with one of the lights now. And the guy inside the pub was the grumpiest bartender, and I loved it.
Ask you the experience.
So I walk in, and it was the first place I had a pint of Guinness. So I get off the plane, I drop all my gear at the at the hostel, and I start looking for a bar, like a pub, and I like to walk cities. So typically, whenever I'm traveling, I'll get out of my hotel. I'll just start walking, and so that's what I did. Like, I got out of the hostel, and I started walking the city, and found some train tracks, followed the train tracks, and then saw this pub at the corner called Dice Bar. And I went in, and it was just what I thought it would be. It was like out of a movie, what an Irish pub looks like.
That's awesome.
Sat down, told the guy, hey, I'd like to get like a pint of Guinness, please. And he's like, okay. So he pours this Guinness and he sets it in front of me. And I start to reach for it. And he goes, don't touch that. And I was like, whoa, hey, sorry, thought it was mine. He goes, it is yours. And then I was confused. And he goes, look, Guinness is a patient man's drink.
You have to let Guinness sit.
He goes, you don't touch that glass until all the bubbles are gone.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, man, okay. And so when I went to the Guinness factory and had my first pint of Guinness, I didn't touch the glass. And the bartender looked at me and he goes, have you been in Ireland long? And I was like, oh, I got in yesterday. And he's like, oh, okay. Because most of the tourists that come through always reach for the glass, Yeah. And I was like, no, I got told yesterday that I'm not supposed to touch it. So
yeah, I actually learned that at a local Irish pub, obviously Americanized, but they have like 5 pours of Guinness on tap, and they'll actually sit it at the back so people don't touch it. So when they give it to them, it's already done.
And that makes perfect sense. But, I thought that was a hilarious experience. And the guy
absolutely. I would have loved to see that. No, 100%.
And he ended up being a trip to talk to, definitely a chatty bartender. So anyway, when you go to Dublin, message me and I'll tell you the name of that bar again.
Cool. Absolutely.
But if you want to go somewhere cheap, man, Central America is really fantastic. So
I would love to actually do a bike trip through like all the way from like United States down through like Baja and just ride the coast all the way down. But yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I haven't been to anywhere, man. It's just in this, not necessarily a cocoon. It's just like I don't think about, hey, I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna go here. But there are places, like I said, I do want to go. It's just like, okay, I'm gonna go. Because I'm bad about planning stuff. And because I always feel like if I plan something based on historical reasons for me, something always comes up where I have to cancel it. So I'm just like, I just don't go anywhere now. So yeah.
All right. So getting back to riding though for a second, what do your parents think about you riding a motorcycle? And what did they think when you first started? And what do they think now?
They originally thought it was dangerous. Not necessarily saying, hey, we don't want you to ride, but they felt like they weren't necessarily worried about me, but everybody else out on the streets. But now they're just like, oh, okay, he's riding his bike. Even though I've wrecked my bike before, they still kind of understand that I'm still going to do it. Not necessarily in I'm a rebel kind of way, but more like this is what I really like doing. And, if it happens, it just happens. I just got to make sure I'm prepared if it does happen. So.
Speaking of preparation, on a scale of full squid to full ATGAT, where do you think you fall?
I'm definitely on the ATGAT side. I unfortunately, when I had my worst accident, that was the day I didn't have my jacket on out of all the days. But I mean, I would gravitate in kind of in between. Most days I would wear it. Some days I wouldn't. It really depends on how far I was going. But obviously always a helmet, always gloves, but it really depended on whether or not I was going to wear that jacket. But yeah, I'm definitely more on the ATGAT fully side now.
So tell me about the accident. What happened?
So I was on my Indian and I was, headed down the interstate, hit a bad patch of road, bike went into a tank wobble, bike threw me off, bike kept going up the highway, never fell over. And because that Indian has that bobber has such a small seat, it doesn't really hold you in. So the bike is so thin. So when threw me off. I kind of lost my balance and the bike threw me off. The bike kept going up the highway. I fell off, which I had on a tank top.
Oh my God.
Riding down the interstate and going 70 miles an hour. I had just passed a state trooper at the state line. So I was doing the speed limit and hit this bad patch of road, man. Just threw me off, broke 3 fingers, had road rash all up my arms and my back, my shoulder blades, and I was down for like 2 months.
So did you end up needing any kind of skin grafts or?
No, I got lucky. So this right here, my shoulder was the worst part, where it's like it was very close, but luckily I didn't need no skin grafts. But yeah, I broke that finger, and I broke that finger.
So out of the broken fingers and the road rash, what do you think hurt more?
Oh, definitely the road rash.
Okay.
Because the thing was, I was actually using my fingers as if nothing was wrong because I was originally told that I had 2 sprained fingers. But it got to the point where my fingers, like I think a week and a half in, they were still purple. I said, why the hell are my fingers still purple? So I went in for another x-ray, and that's when they said, oh, you don't have 2 sprained fingers. You have 2 broken fingers. I was like, oh, okay, well, that don't really hurt. So then I was like, well, just for, giggles, what about this finger? And then that's when they x-rayed and said, oh, that was really broken. I was like, oh, okay. And that's when they cast it up and put the little splints on it and went to the doctor and they showed me where, it was impacted around the knuckle. And yeah, so the fingers were, outside of not being able to use them, those were okay.
So did you have gloves or no gloves?
I had gloves. They just didn't protect me from breaking them.
Wow.
Yeah. I still have those gloves, I think, somewhere, actually.
Did they have the knuckle protection on those gloves or were they just leather? Or?
Yeah, but it was more so like the little foam. They weren't really like hard knuckle gloves.
Yeah.
But when I fell, it was like I fell like this. Well, more so like this. And then those fingers kind of like pushed in. And this one, like I pretty much jammed this one. This one kind of like the impact pushed, all the force went back. And this one kind of, I can't remember how, but they said this part was like floating essentially. So I had to keep it straight like that for like a month and a half. And this one was, and it's still kind of like slightly bent, but they literally like twisted it back in place and
fun.
Seated it and it grew back. I mean, I have perfect 100% movement in them. So
even with all that, the road rash was still the most painful, huh?
Oh, 100%, man. Like I can remember just peeling off those pads and having to change them. Awful. I would not wish that on anybody. It was awful. And the crazy part is you would think after having road rash all up here, all up my shoulder blades and my shoulder, the shoulder was really bad. Like it was pretty much white. But like I said, I got really lucky and it didn't need anything. But this was one of the most painful spots right there on my wrist. It was so sensitive. Like that little patch compared to like all of this on both sides.
Do you think it's just because you move your wrist so much or?
I just think it was the nerves. It's just so like the skin is so thin there. But it was very sensitive. But I couldn't, if I remember correctly, I didn't change a shirt for 2 weeks because I couldn't get my arms up, but I just couldn't get it off. Luckily, my fiance was there to help me, but I didn't take a shower for days. Like it was awful, man. I'm telling you, I don't wish that on anybody. Because I had it all back here, all back there, all up here, and every time, I was just covered in white pads for weeks.
So then I'm assuming that you're more, consistent with the jacket at this point.
Oh yeah, I will sweat into a puddle before I ride without my jacket. And I have ridden once. I've ridden once without my jacket, and that was up the Boulevard to a Waffle House. But I was pit-patting the whole way. Like it was not like I'm just gonna ride like normal. No, I was just like on the edge. I was like, ugh. So
I mean, I shouldn't laugh, but you hear people so often just say, oh, it's just some road rash. Oh, it's just some road rash. And I look at it, and it looks gnarly. But everyone else just, all these bikers just go, it's just road rash, you know?
No, it's not. I'll say they haven't had enough of it to the point where it hinders movement. Like I had to sleep on my stomach. And it got to the point where, well, the problem was my arms were in the cast. So they were like, I was like this. And any slight movement would cause pain. So pretty much I had to sleep like kind of like this for like at least 2 weeks. So, you know, I say if somebody says it's just road rash, they haven't had enough of it at one time. I'll say that.
Okay. I'm glad I'm not just crazy because, like I said, I've seen some pictures and then I think to myself, I don't know. Everyone keeps saying it's just road rash, but I wouldn't want that. That looks painful as hell. You know?
Yeah, because I mean, if you get it here, if you just get it right here, I mean, that's just your arm, right? But if you get it like here, you get it here, you get it there, you get it there, and you break fingers and you got it all on your shoulder blades. So anytime you put on a tank top or anything, it's hitting those. Oh, don't forget the part where the scabs break and they have to. No, it's more than they haven't had enough.
All right. Well, I'll make sure to remind people who tell me they're squids. I'll say, hey, go back and listen to my episode with Brandon and tell me if you still want to keep squidding around.
Yeah, I mean, if I don't fault anybody for squidding because I've been there. When I first started riding, I had just those replica German style helmets that are nowhere near DOT. I've been there, but after going through that, no, not again. Nope.
Yeah, you know, I'm one of those folks who thinks that everyone should wear full gear all the time, but it shouldn't be a law requiring it. It's like if you're an adult and you understand the risks and you want to, you know, ride with flip flops and a tank top and go 70 miles an hour down a, you know, dirt road or whatever, you know, like that's on you.
Choice.
Yeah, that's on you. But personally, I'm going to be wearing my jacket, my pants, my helmet. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like now there's enough technology and advances in clothing to where there are still ways to be cool while riding. So like when I do long rides, I have my base layers on. So my base layers keep me cool. Now, am I hot? Yes, but it keeps me from being as hot if I didn't have them on. Like for when I commute to work, I don't have those on. I just have my jacket, my helmet, and my gloves. Now, I wish I did wear boots more, but I don't really have boots that I like wearing to work. So I kind of just wear my regular shoes. So that is a risk that I do take with my feet or my ankles. But like when I come home, I do keep my jacket open, but I still have my pads. I'm still covered if, you know, something does happen. So I guess some people would say, well, you should ride with your jacket closed. But I'm like, I don't have any chest protection. So, you know, it's no different than me just unzipping it and letting more air in. So,
well, the difference is though it rides up. So if you don't zip it, it can ride up really easily, and then all of a sudden your back and ribs and stomach are rolling across the pavement without any.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I say that because I was watching a YouTube video of a woman whose name I can't remember now, and she was wearing a jacket that was a little bit too big, and it was zipped. Yeah. But it was just too big, you know. So when she went down, it went all the way, it just like rolled up, you know. And then she ended up getting a bunch of road rash anyway. And
it's like, what's the point of the jacket, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I live out in Phoenix, so basically every day that I ride right now is over 100 degrees.
Dude, I'm gonna be in Phoenix. And
are you?
Let's see. Yeah, so my fiance is from Phoenix. We're gonna be there the 18th through the 20th. We're going to be visiting her family and driving to California on Saturday to visit her sister.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, it's hot, but, you know, it's interesting.
Yeah.
You know, you guys are lucky because it's actually cooling down. We had just recently broke a record for the number of days in a row that it was over 110 out here.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. We had several.
I'm having flashbacks.
115, 118 every single day.
Oh man. Yeah.
And you know what? And when I ride, I still ride with a jacket. I ride with my pants. I ride with the boots, the gloves, the helmet. And honestly, the jacket that I have keeps me a little bit cooler because it's a mesh and the wind actually like gets somehow funneled through it in a way that cools me down. And
Right.
plus, I'm Irish, Scottish, and Swedish. So I burn like crazy. And unless I'm going to like load myself down with sunblock, if I'm not wearing a jacket, I'm going to come back looking like a lobster.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I think there are a lot of ways to still stay cool. Like for me, I mean, we get told this all the time, but you don't really, I guess I don't think about it, but staying hydrated helps me stay cool. Just being out there, just when I'm really hydrated, I'm not dehydrated. Even when I get off of the bike, I'm not tired. I'm not sweating profusely. I'm not, just tired from this heat exhaustion. Because sitting at those lights on these bikes, it's hot, hotter if you weren't on the bike. But yeah, even if I was in Phoenix, like you, I would still have it on 100%.
And your bike's liquid cooled, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See, the Harley's air cooled, and so when I stop at lights.
Liquid cool. I do feel like the big difference for me with liquid cooling compared to like an air cooled bike, because like the Indians, the Thunderstrokes are air cooled, is not having that heat by your thigh. You feel the heat, but it's not burning you. Like for me, because liquid cool, you still feel the heat. It's a combustion.
Oh sure,
you still feel it. It's just like my thighs. I'm not constantly rubbing the outside of my thighs from the exhaust burning me or the cylinders burning me. So.
Yeah, I feel like as long as I'm moving, it's pretty okay out here. And if I go super early in the morning, it's not terrible because it's about
it's 95
degrees
in the morning.
Yeah, usually by the time I get out, it's like 100, which sounds really hot. But if you're used to it being higher than that and the sun beating down on you, something about a lower angle of the sun in the morning too makes it a little bit more bearable. Plus there's more shade.
Yeah, we got a lot of humidity here, so.
What state are you in?
Alabama.
Alabama. Wow.
Yeah. Very humid. It's just like when you walk outside, it's just like moisture. Just moisture.
And how are you guys doing? Did the hurricane affect you too much?
Me, not so much, because it kind of veered off and went more Louisiana. So we just we may have gotten 3 days of rain. Spotty. It was like a lot of scattered thunderstorms, but we got relatively nothing from it this time around, which is surprising compared to what was coming. Because I had put an Instagram post, I was like, "Oh no, we're about to be uppercut by this hurricane," but no, we got very lucky.
Yeah, well, the Gulf area was getting a 1-2 punch, right? At one point, it looked like there was a second tropical storm that could turn into another hurricane.
Right, and then it's just like dissipated. No, it was looking very ugly. Because we don't normally get like flooding here. We just get a lot of tornadoes and a lot of storms. But yeah, got lucky.
So how do you like living in Alabama?
Well, this is the only place I've lived. I based on places that I visited, I like Alabama because Alabama has enough city, but not too much city. Mm-hmm. And then if you want to go country back road riding for hours, you can do that. So, we're not too far from Atlanta. We're not too far from the beach. And the cost of living is really low here.
Yeah. Well, unless I guess you live on the beachfront property and have to rebuild every hurricane.
Further south you go, the more expensive it gets. Further south you go. But no, I could see myself living somewhere else, but I would love to always still have a home here. Mm-hmm. If I had like multiple properties or something, because like I said, my fiance is from Phoenix. I would like to have a place there, maybe stay there for a little while, and then like, I can always go back home to Alabama if I want to stay.
So how often do you visit Phoenix then, since the fiance is from here?
I've only been there once. So I met my fiance in 2017, and we went in 2018, and we didn't go last year. We were supposed to go earlier this year, but COVID, and now we're going now. So I've only been once.
All right. And how did you meet her?
I met her at a bar.
Really?
I met her at a bar. It was the day before my birthday, and a lot of the people you see in my videos that I ride bikes with, they took me out for my birthday. And actually, we frequent the place, and just this day we were just partying it up, and she walked in with her friend, and luckily I had enough in my system to go say hi, and the rest is history.
Oh, that's awesome. So what does she think of you riding bikes? Does she ride bikes? Like, what's that situation like?
So she does not ride bikes. She's looking at me now. No, so yeah, she doesn't ride bikes, but eventually she wants to ride. But she's just a backpack right now. So, but what we're gonna do, we're gonna put her through the Harley safety course, and then she can ride and drop it and figure out if it's for her there versus us buying one and she not liking it or something and feeling obligated to ride at that point. So, but no, she does want to at least try it.
Okay. Well, tell her as a fellow new rider, what I found helpful, because I took the MSF course in April. And I learned to make a bike move in Nicaragua. My buddy taught me in like an hour. And I learned a lot more in the MSF course, but you never leave the parking lot, and it's a way different feeling. I mean, I don't know if you've taken one or not, but it's a way different feeling, than actually riding on the street, right? So when I got out, I was just kind of like, okay, now what? Because I don't feel like I'm really that great of a rider. I mean, I passed the course and I got my license and that kind of a thing, but
that's interesting.
So what I did actually though was I got that MotoJitsu book, which is why one of the reasons I'm wearing the hat, right? So I got the MotoJitsu book, and there's a parking lot near my house, and I just get some cones, and I just keep drilling. I keep doing the emergency braking, and I keep doing like the circles and the cone weave, and I also do just like trips, right? So I'll just go drive somewhere, so I'm getting street experience too. But doing the additional parking lot practice after the course, for me, made me feel a lot more confident riding around.
Absolutely.
Because 2 days is not that much time.
So I'll tell you this. So my first experience, I went a different route. So my uncle would take me on he would put me on his first bike. He had a Honda Shadow, and he would just put me on the bike, and I would go up a back road with no cars. And that's when I learned the clutch and shift and stuff like that on an actual street bike versus a dirt bike. And because the experience I had with the dirt bike was like maybe 30 minutes and that was it. So when I got on the street bike, it was, I was learning to shift and downshift and stuff like that. But when I got my actual motorcycle, I got on the road and within 5 minutes I got cut off.
Wow.
And I didn't panic. I just, let off of the brake and let off the throttle and got on the brake and just slowed down. And they cut me off maybe a bike and a half's length, and then when I got to that light where they were in front of me, I pulled off and stalled out. So I did a lot of that. And but going back to what you said about the safety course, I never thought about that. How you learn in a contained environment, which is safe. It's safer that way, but like you said, it's still different than being actually on the street.
Yep.
Because all of the risk is somewhat more contained in that versus everybody else out there on the street that you're technically, I guess, in battle with, right? They say like you become a defensive rider versus being an aggressor, and it's just safer that way. But I eventually took the safety course, and that's when I realized, like, dang, there's always something to learn, because I couldn't do a figure 8 on my M109. I would get very close, but I was so scared of dropping it. I would never fully lean over. Now I can straight peg and do all that in a tight turn. I can do U-turns, but when it comes to that figure 8, I always had an excuse like, no, the tire's too big and everything. But then I watched this video of this guy just like, I was like, you know what? Yeah. But I eventually did take the safety course because I wanted to test ride other bikes. So and get the M endorsement.
Oh, you were riding without a license then?
Well, in Alabama, you don't have to have an M endorsement as long as you have a driver's license. And I know it's backwards, but in Alabama, all you need is a driver's license to legally drive a bike, no matter what CC it is.
I'm not that shocked that it's a little backwards.
Man, you can get a 1,000 or whatever bike, Ninja H2 supercharged bike tomorrow, go to the DMV, get the tag, and you're scot-free. Now, they were working, and I don't know if they've changed it, but I know in the past few years, they were working to require it. But when I got mine, and I want to say several years after that, it wasn't required to have it. Of course, you still gotta have a helmet. We are a helmet state, but outside of that, that's it. Unless you're like 16, you're limited to 250s, I think. But other than that, you can go wide open.
Wow. I think here in Arizona, the only requirement is eye protection.
Man.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, yeah.
I mean, like I said, I don't care. I mean, people can take whatever risk they want. It's just it's funny to hear Alabama's got a helmet law and Arizona's like, you know what? You got some sunglasses, you're fine.
I mean, Florida's the same way. Florida's a no helmet state.
Yeah.
So, and I have ridden without a helmet. When I went to the big bike events down there, I've been down there without a helmet. I will say it's fun. It's hella dangerous, but it is fun.
Well, everyone's got a different scale. For me, it's all about balancing the fun and the danger. If the fun is high enough, I'll take the risk. That's why it took me so long to ride bikes. I never saw the scales balancing between risk and fun until I hopped on a bike, and then I was like, God damn it, this is fun.
Yeah.
So, when you planning on tying the knot? Then you keep saying fiance. What's the timeline looking for that?
We lazy. Essentially, there's really I literally had somebody ask me that yesterday at work. And really what it comes down to is we've always liked the fact that we didn't put pressure on one another to get married. So I did ask her to marry me last Christmas. And we've kind of just been rolling steady. We're like, well, we'll get to it when we get to it. So we just bought a house. And like I said, we're just more than likely what we'll end up doing, because I'm from Alabama, she's from Arizona. All of her family is in Arizona. That's 2 separate ceremonies. More likely, we're probably just going to do something super small. I'm a very courthouse kind of person, and she's a very courthouse kind of person. But we're probably going to eventually do something. We're just cruising. We're just cruising.
I mean, that's less than a year of engagement. That's actually not that long. It's just when you were talking about something earlier, it made it seem like it's been a long time that she's been your fiance. But
oh yeah,
Christmas, that's not that far back.
No, not at all. But yeah, it'll happen at some point.
Well, and now is a perfect excuse to have a tiny courthouse-like wedding, because you can say, "Oh, sorry guys, we can't have crowds, so."
Right.
We'll have a party later to celebrate.
Absolutely. That's a pretty good excuse there. I'm gonna use that.
All right. So what brought her from Arizona to Alabama? Was she going to school there?
So she just wanted a new start. She felt like she wasn't getting anywhere where she was, so she moved here with some friends, and I got lucky to see her in the bar one night. So
nice.
That's literally it.
So when you came out to Phoenix the one and only time, how long were you here, and what'd you think of the place?
I was there for a week, and I told her I don't want to rent a car. I want to ride the bus everywhere. So she knew the bus routes because she used to take the bus everywhere. So I was like, when we get there. Now, of course, we did go to California while we were there to visit her sister. And I was like, while we're in Arizona, I want to take the bus everywhere. So we took the bus from dawn on the days that we did ride up until like 2 a.m.
Wow.
On the bus.
What time of the year did you come out to visit?
I want to say it was July. It was mid. It was at peak of the.
How did you not die?
Season.
How did you not die?
Water, man.
What?
Water. You know what? What's crazy is I underestimated the weather, because in the desert it's hot during the day and it's cold at night. And man, I missed. Wait, no, I'm wrong. I am wrong. That was California.
Like, it never gets cold here, man.
No, it was Christmas time we went. It was Christmas because everything was closed on Christmas, and I was upset. No, it was Christmas, and during the day, it got up in like the low 90s. And at night, it got down to like 40 something degrees. And it was a day I didn't take my jacket. So I pretty much got the flu while I was in Phoenix.
Ouch.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that sucked. But no, as far as the whole environment and their culture there and atmosphere, I actually like Phoenix. I think what I really like about it is just it's big, but there's just so much. Like the problem I had with my area, for instance, Montgomery. Now, granted, I love the country life and I love the little city part, but when I ride my bike, I can ride my bike across town in like 15 minutes. I can go in different routes and stuff, but pretty much I'm done within 15, 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. Once you ride down one major road, you're pretty much through the city. Phoenix, I feel like it would take you all day to ride around, like, was it Phoenix, was it Tempe?
Tempe, yep.
Is it
Chandler?
Chandler, yeah. I was gonna say Charleston, but Chandler, there's so many different areas that you can go. And I think that's just cool as far as like, you have those areas where it's like the houses are way back on the mountains. And yeah, I just think it's just a lot more space to do and ride in so many different restaurants. And surprisingly, people knew that I wasn't from there. I don't know if it's my accent or the way I dress, but people just like, I literally had a guy at the bus stop that said, "Hey man, where are you from?" I was like, "I'm not from here." And he was like, "Obviously." And he was like, "I'm just curious because the way you dress and the way you wear your hair is different." I was like, "Oh, I'm from Alabama." He was like, "Oh, I can kind of tell in your accent." I was like, "I don't have an accent." He's like, "Yeah, you do."
Yeah, you do.
I was like, "What?" Yeah, so I thought that was kind of cool. But everybody there was just friendly. But it was definitely different as far as like there's not a lot of me there. There's not a lot of black people there. Nope. I'll say that. There's not a lot of me there. So maybe that was another thing. Probably another reason I stuck out. I don't know.
Yeah, Arizona in general is not a very diverse place. I moved out here from DC, and DC is
DC.
Like, oh yeah, it's super, super diverse. Like, no,
what got you to Arizona? Was it work?
So no, actually, what it was housing prices. So I used to be married, and my ex-wife and I both lived in DC together.
Okay.
And we hated the cold weather, number one. And number two, we wanted to buy a house. But housing prices in the DC area are just absolutely insane. Yeah. And to buy anything that we could afford, we'd have to be an hour and a half outside the city, and we'd have an hour and a half commute each day to work and then back, right? So 3 hours of commuting a day, it just wasn't feasible. So we either had to continue renting and wasting our money, or we'd have to find somewhere that we could go that was cheaper. The problem was I really loved my job at the time, so I didn't want to leave. But I moved to a different job, and it was miserable. And on top of that, I hate winter, and every single day, my wife would get up in the morning and she'd go, "Hey, it's 70 degrees in Phoenix today. Hey, it's 75 degrees in Phoenix today." And I'd be like trudging through snow or like bundled up in my trench coat because the wind is just like whipping around, freezing me to my bones. So when I got that crappy job, I finally was like, all right, if you want to go to Phoenix, we'll move to Phoenix. And we started looking at housing prices and just saw how incredibly cheap it was to buy houses out here. So we moved, and a year later we bought a house, and yeah, it's been good. I mean, I like the geography because we're close to a beach. We can go down to Mexico, Rocky Point it's called. It's like 4 hours away. Okay. And then we've got mountains. If we wanted to go, I don't ski, but if we wanted to, we can go 2 hours north to Flagstaff and ski. And we've got sand dunes like a couple hours west of us on the way to California if we want to go like hang out in some sand dunes. And then we've got forests around if we want to go there. So I feel like geographically Arizona is in a really nice location, and we don't get any natural disasters. So California, you got all the earthquakes, and it's just, you always wonder if something's going to knock your house down. They wake up one day, earth starts shaking, your house is gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I will say that is one thing I like about Alabama is we get a true, for the most part, true four season weather. But it does get cold here. But it could be literally 20 degrees in the morning, and in the afternoon you're looking at 60s.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, this is riding weather. Let's go. But we also, we have the mountains, we have the hiking trails, the waterfalls, and luckily we're not like Florida where we're flat. So we do get some curvy roads where we can, do some stuff like that. But I would always make a joke with my fiance that Phoenix, that Arizona doesn't have trees.
Well, there's very few of them. I mean, outside of like citrus orchards, like for instance, in my backyard, I've got a grapefruit tree and some other random tree. And this whole area of Glendale, where I technically live, used to just
Glendale,
citrus orchards. That's what this whole area was until they started building houses here.
Wait, what's that? Is it called Glendale Glitter or Glendale Lights?
Glendale Glitters. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's huge. That's right down the street from me.
What?
If you watch any, I think my last moto vlog that I just put up, I was actually riding around Old Town Glendale. But I was doing the alleys, so you might not recognize it as much because I was trying to do something a little bit different because I ride through Old Town Glendale all the time. So I was trying to find some more like street art, and I was hoping to go down an alley and find something new. I didn't end up finding anything new, but it was still kind of fun to explore. But anyway,
really cool, man.
That's the Glendale. That's the Glendale Glitter area. So
yeah, that's one of the first places she took me was Glendale Glitters. Yeah,
got really crazy busy, I bet, huh?
Yeah. Well, no, actually, no, it wasn't. We went probably because it was during the week, maybe. It's probably why.
Yep.
I think we went on like a Wednesday or something, but no, that was a really cool spot. There's this guy selling. He had a little food cart, and he was selling like chili Takis. Like he was putting chili sauce on like Takis in a bag.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So no, the local experiences there in Phoenix is really cool. So
did you guys see the corn in a cup?
No, I didn't see the corn in a cup.
Next time you come out, you need to go find one of those guys that's selling the corn in the cup. If you come out,
is it like corn on a cob?
No. It's some of them do sell it on the cob, but I always get it in the cup.
Okay.
But you'll see these guys in like bicycles with a cooler on the front. And if they're stopped somewhere, they might have an umbrella, and you can find them usually at like Home Depot, and some of the Hispanic neighborhoods. They'll just be like riding around neighborhoods, but it is fantastic. And if you've never had it, it's a must-do experience.
Write it down. I got it.
Yeah. It's actually called, when you're out here, it's elote, right? And the person who rides that bike, it's called the elote man. But elote is just the Spanish word for corn. But so basically, if you wanted, you can ask someone, "Hey, where's the elote man around here?" And someone should be able to tell you.
When I go, if I'm able to find it, I'm gonna shoot you a DM and let you know.
It's super sketchy though. Like I said, he's serving you corn out of a cooler. And the mayonnaise and stuff they put on it is like in the cart too. So anyway, it's a fantastic experience. All right, so your girlfriend moved out there because she wanted a new opportunity, right? So did she find it? What is she doing now?
So she essentially works on a military base. She does office work, and she's in school.
Mm-hmm.
So she's I think she's in school for business administration, and she's just trying to figure it out.
Okay.
But she took accounting, and I was like, dude, accounting sucks. I don't like accounting.
She's
like, why?
Boring, yes.
I was like, I don't like it. And then she was like, why? I was like, you will find out soon enough. And she was like, oh my God, Brandon, I don't like this. I was like, I told you. It's not for me. I've taken, let's see, 1, 2. Yeah, I took 4 accounting classes. I did well in them. I just, oh man. Salute. I salute you.
You know, the ironic part is I wasn't even originally interested in going into accounting. It just happened by happenstance. So
that's actually the same story that some of my friends that I went to school with said the same thing. Like I knew somebody that got to the end of their biology degree and started all the way over and went into accounting. And I was like, what? She's like, I like accounting. I was like, oh, okay. Hey, crazy, but okay. No, happiness over.
Yeah,
boredom,
I mean,
I guess.
I don't know. It's accounting's definitely boring, but the demand for it is always out there.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like IT. I mean, you know, everyone needs an IT person. But yeah, I was going to school basically for biology as well. And I wanted to do genetic engineering. And because I mean, I used to like read books about, you know, genes and different things. Like I had an interest in that type of stuff. But what I discovered is I have more of like a, you know, like a layperson's interest, I guess. I don't actually enjoy the chemistry behind it. Okay. And I remember the day that I decided I was going to switch my major. I was in a chemistry class and we were doing a titration experiment, right? And it was basically just like counting the number of drips of an acid or something that goes into this solution with a reactant agent in it that turns it pink when you get to the appropriate level of acid or whatever. And so you'd have to drip, stir, drip, stir, drip, stir, and just keep counting until you counted how many drips it took to turn the liquid pink. And then you'd write it down as your answer. And I remember thinking to myself, if I have to do this at any point in my career, I will shoot myself in the head. Man, like I need to switch.
Tedious and yeah. No, I get, yeah, that would drive me insane.
Yeah.
I don't like tedious process. Like, oh, I messed up and I gotta start.
Yeah, it was rough, but luckily I was talking to my my ex-sister-in-law and she was like, "Oh, you ever considered accounting?" I was like, "Not really." And she goes, "Well, I'll tell you what, there's a job open at my you know, at my employer for an accounting person, so it's entry level. If you want to apply, I'll, you know, give you a recommendation." And so while I was still in school, I applied for like a really entry level accounting position and they hired me. And then I switched to business administration and just went from there.
Been history ever since.
That's it. Yeah. So I don't know. I think that your girlfriend might have a lot of opportunities once she gets that business administration degree.
Yeah, that's the hope, man. That's the hope.
A lot of people just care that you have the piece of paper. You know, they don't even care what it's in.
Right.
I've worked with people
before. Experience and stuff too. So
yeah, I had one coworker once whose degree was in history.
Oh wow!
And she was in the accounting department. So
I mean, and yeah, because I mean, now the market cares more about what you know versus just the piece of paper. But I mean, like you said, the piece of paper helps too, but especially with certifications and all that.
Yeah. But, well, I think IT kind of led the way in the idea that it's what you know and what you can do versus you know, whether you have a degree or not. You know, I mean, the certifications were almost better than the degree. Like if you had like if you had Cisco certifications or whatever, those super tough tests, and they make a big difference. Versus like, oh, I've got a, you know, bachelor's in information technology. It's like, okay, what are your certifications? Yeah.
No, yeah, that's exactly what happens. I mean, it's a fun career though, but like you said, it's definitely a career that, you know, you always need as like accountants. But yeah.
Okay. So what are your you know, I don't know if you're like me or not, but as I'm learning something, I typically set like specific things I want to practice and then kind of work on those until I think I got them good and then move to the next thing. Do you have anything like that you're doing right now with your YouTube channel, or are you just kind of like just trying to refine everything you're doing a little bit more each time?
So what I am struggling with right now is the trying not to perfect a video per se. And by that, I mean working on it to the point, well, it comes from the filming, the writing, the research, overly researching, overly writing something, overly filming something, trying to perfect it versus trying not to fine tune something to the point where it's like the law of diminishing returns. Like nobody's going to notice this minute detail versus me trying to figure out a way to do that versus just filming it and getting it out. And also at the same time, I'm very bad at time management. So when it comes to the YouTube videos, when I come home, for instance, I've been at work all day, 8 to 5. My day starts at 5:30. And I go to the gym, then I come home, get ready for work. I go to work all day, then I come home. Last thing I want to do is sit in front of my computer more. So I already lack the motivation to edit, let alone film. So it's like what I've been trying to work on, get back to the original question, is how do I get videos out faster without spending as much time creating them? And I feel like that's a balance that I'm struggling with now. Because a video that should have taken me 10 hours at the most might take me days as far as the time I put into it. But yeah, that's what I'm working on. And that's not including filming and lighting and trying to learn more to be a better creator, a better storyteller. And then just at the same time, hell, just enjoying riding my bike.
Yeah, that's a good point. I just did a ride last weekend, the weekend before, where I just left everything at home because I'd found that lately all my riding was specifically for YouTube. And I do like to ride for YouTube, but at the same time, it's a different level of pressure, right? It's not the same level of relaxation as when you're just riding for you. So I totally get making time for that. But when you ride for yourself, do you typically have a destination in mind, or are you just kind of one of those people that likes to drive around town and it doesn't really matter where you're going?
It depends on what day it is. If it's like an after work ride, I'll just ride around, or my commute's only 10 minutes to work, so I don't really have a lot of riding after work. So if it's after work, I might take the long way home. That might add another 20 minutes. But if I'm riding just for me, I'll go hit some back roads and that are a little bit further out, 30, 40 miles. But most of the time, I'll just ride around town.
Okay. I've been trying to add in some destinations because I tend to just ride aimlessly, and just to be on the bike, just to kind of go somewhere. But lately I've been thinking about, mostly because the weather's getting cooler. I think one of the reasons I was kind of just putzing around town was I didn't want to get too far from the house because it's so hot.
Right. No, absolutely. That's definitely part of it.
But now it's starting to get a little bit cooler in the mornings, especially. So I've been kind of like, maybe I want to go check out this on the bike. Maybe I want to go check out that on the bike. And yeah, I think I'm going to enjoy that more, because at some point it gets a little bit monotonous riding the same neighborhoods.
It does. And it's funny. A funny thing about that is when I rode my bike to Florida, it was the Florida Motovlogger meetup. I rode 8 hours one way without music. And I really truly thought it would be very boring, but I found a very, I guess, peaceful aspect of it. I could still hear the bike. I had my earplugs in, and it just didn't matter. For 8 hours, I was riding one way. I think it was like 500 miles, and then I rode back the same thing, no music. But yeah, definitely, it got to a point for me where I didn't feel like riding around town because, like you said, it gets boring. And that's actually a video I have in my backlog of videos to make, is how to spice up a commute or ride in the same neighborhoods, because it gets boring. No matter how much we like riding, it gets boring sometimes, because I got to the point where I would simply not touch my bike, so it would feel more special when I did ride my bike. So I would go drive my car to work, and sometimes that was my gift to myself. Oh, okay, Friday, let me ride the bike to work versus riding it every single day.
Yeah. So you seem to have had a lot of interesting things happen to you while riding, one of which you just touched upon again in your helmet video. But can you tell me, like, what was happening the day you got punched? Did you ever get any more backstory on that guy, or?
No. Oh, well, yes and no. So I was actually on the way to work, and this guy, same path I've taken to work 3 years, and this guy I see him maybe not even a quarter of a mile down the road. I see the guy, and as I'm approaching, you got three lanes, and he just walks out in the middle of the street, and I'm like, okay, so get over. He walks to the furthest part of the lane. I'm like, okay, get back in the middle part of the lane, because in the mornings, in the direction I'm going, two of those lanes are going in my direction, and the other lane is the opposite way. And in the afternoon, it reverses. Those two lanes are coming towards the other way, and the furthest lane goes the opposite way. Sure. So he basically, whenever I try to get out the way, he gets in the way. And this is all happening within 5 to 6 seconds. So the closer I got, I try to swerve, and then that's when, I get in as far as I can over. And at the same time, I have traffic on my right because I jumped in the middle, and they're speeding past. He swings open fist and hits me straight through the visor. And, rather than go back and figure out what the hell happened, I just keep going, and I pull over not too far over from where it happened. And, I do the police report or whatever. And then come to find out, the guy's he boxes. Mm-hmm. So I found his Facebook, I looked his name up and everything else. He had videos on his Facebook when he was actually boxing. I was like, got punched in the face by a boxer. I could take a boxing punch, so I feel pretty good. So, but other than that, man, I truly don't know the motive. I don't know the reason behind it. I've never talked to the guy, haven't seen him again. I actually don't take that route when I ride my bike, and I really don't take that route when I drive my car because it's just quicker the route that I take now. But
so the police never updated you? He wasn't having like some sort of a psychotic break or
nothing. And this is during the time of COVID. So I don't really, maybe I would have got more info if it was just a normal day. But like when I went to the courthouse to the courthouse to sign the warrant or whatever, I had to set an appointment just to go in there to do that. So, they were kind of like, all right, sign the paperwork. We got them. Bye. Pretty much. There was no reasoning or information as far as any of it. Mm-hmm. I'd have to look at them, nothing like that. It was very black and white. Get in, get out, bye.
And he didn't put up anything on his Facebook that would have indicated that he was having law troubles because he punched some dude?
No, his Facebook hadn't been updated in 3 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But like I said, I looked up the address. I think I cross-referenced the address with his name because the address, the house was on the same street and all that kind of stuff. And, he was in the picture and everything. So that's how I found him. So he didn't have his Facebook locked down.
Yeah. So, I assume you were feeling pretty stressed out then, taking a hit to the face, just trying to ride to work.
Yeah. For me, it was more so just, I didn't know why, why I got singled out or anything like that. That was more so the thing for me because, I was just lucky that I didn't drop the bike or wreck the bike because I got blindsided. And then, I fall off the bike and I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Now I'm in oncoming traffic. And this is a repeat of everything that's happening. And it was a day that I didn't have my GoPro on. It was a day that I was riding for me. I was like, and it was a day I was actually rushing to get to work. I was like, I don't have time to get the GoPro, set it up, put the battery in, all that, put the card in. Just took my helmet, hopped on the bike, and just went. And that happened that day. Out of all the days.
Wow. Like you said, good job not putting it down. I could see it, just through sheer surprise, I can see someone just grabbing a handful of brake. You know what I mean?
Man, I don't even remember hitting the brake. I just remember when it happened, I just let off the gas and just went and looked back. I was like, what the hell? And, the people that are on my right, the traffic, they're stopping, trying to figure out what the heck just happened. And I'm looking back yeah. So that's what happened.
So let me ask you, is that the weirdest thing that you think has ever happened to you on a bike, or would you say there's a different story that would be even weirder?
As far as actual, I mean, I've had deer run in front of me. I've hit squirrels on my bike before.
Oh no.
Yeah, I was fully leaned over in the curb, like scraping peg, and a squirrel walked out, and I was like, "Hey, this is it. This is happening." I had bikes behind me. I actually had that on video. Actually, I've had a car cut me off at my front wheel, and I slammed on the brakes. Bike fishtailed and dropped the bike. Had the bike where I wrecked the Indian Scout bobber. I've been around the block a few times.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I mean, I've been pretty lucky. I've had a couple people cut me off, but I've been driving slow enough that it hasn't really mattered that much. It's just more of an annoyance. Like, oh, thanks for cutting me off, bub.
Yeah, the big thing that is just to not panic and react. To an extent. Oh, I see they cut the light off. Did the cast?
No, I'm still here.
Oh, maybe I had saw the. I thought when your lights had cut off.
Oh no! I hope not. They've done that before though. They've run by and just yanked a plug out.
But no, the big thing is just not to react. Like, I mean, you're supposed to react, obviously, but not an impulse.
Yeah.
Or like a panic react, rather. I'll say that. And that's what I feel like has always kind of kept me, I guess, level. Like, even when somebody cuts me off or somebody swerves into my lane, I go, "Oh, beep beep, vroom vroom, what you doing?" And then they'll jump back over. I don't rage at them, nothing like that. I'm just like, okay, back up.
Yeah. You have what? Closing in on 9,000 subscribers now on YouTube, I think.
I think it's almost 12.
Is it 12? Let's see. Gotta go back. Oh, you're right. It is almost 12. Now, have sponsorships started to try to come in, or is that something that has been slow, or you're just not interested in?
No, I don't really get sponsorship opportunities. I've had a few brands that have reached out, and I've done like a tail rack review for, I think, Motherwell products. I've done one for them. I've gotten some like emails from like Chinese companies wanting me to do stuff that really didn't fit, like Jeep lights. I don't have a Jeep. I don't have, lights. I'm not going to mount like this weird light to my bike just to make a video. So outside of that, Ridge Wallet. I actually reached out to Ridge Wallet because I already used their product. And it actually, my Ridge Wallet that I had on me when I had my accident, I still have to this day and use it every single day. So I really like their brand. But outside of that, no brands reach out to me.
So you mentioned that you reach out to Ridge. Do you have any plans to try to monetize the channel more than maybe it is now? Or are you going to try to keep it just sort of something that you're doing as a hobby?
The plan would be to find a way outside of YouTube ad revenue. But my thing with sponsorships is I don't want to have to cater to one brand. Like I'm forced to say something positive just to keep the sponsorship. I would rather be able to be honest about it. But the downside to that is when you're starting out, you really don't want to turn it down because that's an opportunity for you to grow. But now it's like I'm so zoned in on not really caring about a sponsorship anymore because I just don't get them. So more focus on just making better videos.
Okay.
So if a brand wants to reach out and do a collab or something, cool. But if not, I will. That's just where I'm at with it.
Okay. How's the Instagram presence right now?
My Instagram is a bit rocky. I think my Instagram has like 1,300 followers or something like that. I used to be heavily focused on likes and views and hashtagging every single photo. And now I honestly just don't care. Like I said, I'm just like, I really like putting that light just died. I like putting good photos out there. And outside of that, it's just like, if a brand sees it, if a brand likes it, cool. If not, oh well.
Yeah.
I just want to I'm more focused on just being consistent in uploading and being consistent in quality and being consistent trying to be better versus, being complacent and stuck within a box around one thing. So yeah, but I do have plans for Instagram, but it's just like trying to, like, YouTube in itself is a job. And Star Bobber, she is ridiculous on Instagram.
Oh yeah.
And and I'm sure she'll even say, like, Instagram takes up a lot of my time. I probably don't even have time for YouTube. YouTube, to me, Instagram is easier. Instagram is a lot easier to make quicker content for than a full scale like video on YouTube. Like Instagram, once you take a picture, you can take 5 or 6 or 7, 8 different pictures from one shoot and scale that over weeks, once you start blending them in with multiple shoots. But with like a YouTube video, it's like, it's a lot more work and it takes a lot more time to see the follow through from that work, I think, anyway, unless you just explode in growth, and which is perfectly possible.
Yeah, I think people are getting better at repurposing content, though. Mm-hmm. And I think that some of the companies are noticing that, like Adobe Premiere. Do you edit in Premiere or do you use a different?
I edit in Vegas.
Vegas, okay. So Premiere is just launching this thing where it does an auto reframe for you.
An auto reframe.
Yeah. So you shoot a video for YouTube, but you also want to be able to share it on Instagram TV, for instance. It'll kind of do an automatic crop that would fit like a cell phone's vertical video, and somehow it tracks the subject through the frame. So now you're doing one YouTube video, but then you're using Premiere to do like an auto reframing, and it reframes it so that the same video can be repurposed and put up on Instagram TV.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So yeah, see, I was trying to Instagram TV at first, but like I said, it comes back to the time that you're putting into it. But of course, your Instagram audience is going to be different from the YouTube audience. And the type of content you post on one is going to be different from the other. But I found that a lot of the content I was making on YouTube, people didn't necessarily want to see on Instagram, because they come on Instagram to see quick stuff, and you go to YouTube for longer content. But no, that definitely makes it a lot easier. If you film one video and then you can just, do the facial tracking and you just repurpose it and re-upload it to another platform.
So I haven't used it yet, but I do plan on giving it a try in one of my upcoming videos, because I know Instagram is making a big push to drive more video traffic to Instagram.
Right.
That's one of the reasons they created Instagram TV and everything. So I feel like now is sort of the ground floor, so to speak, on some of those Instagram TV arenas where you'll get more reach than other people per se on Instagram if you're putting out Instagram TV videos, because they're trying to grow that specific feature of Instagram.
Yeah.
And when talking to Star, it sounds like a lot of her companies that she works with came from Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm almost thinking that it's easier to get sponsorships and to get partnerships, with companies through Instagram, which is why I was curious if you were developing a strategy for Instagram. Or
I think it depends. Well, I don't know. I can't say that, because like Indian Motorcycle, for instance, followed me on Instagram, but I think they gave me the time of day for my YouTube videos.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely think brands are more likely to sponsor you from Instagram than they would from YouTube. And the weird part is you get way more views, in my opinion, on YouTube than you would, or at least reach, than you would on Instagram, because you have to go by like hashtags, and the search engine optimization to me is better on YouTube. Like when I Google, Indian Scott Barber, more likely the first thing that's going to come up is going to be YouTube, versus me having to search down somebody's page on Instagram. Like when I search Indian Scott Barber on YouTube, I'm going to get everybody that has ever made an Indian Scott Barber video on YouTube. So that's why for me, I always catered more to YouTube than I did Instagram. But like I said, for me, it's just like I'm already juggling one platform and I have to try to dedicate amount of time to another platform. So yeah, but as far as my strategy, like I said, it's more so just posting high quality pictures and more so for my own enjoyment than a specific brand.
Okay. Well, if you want to have longevity, you got to enjoy what you're doing. So
Yeah, absolutely.
if you compromise it just looking for, partnerships and sponsorships, then it's going to get to become work and then miserable.
Yeah, and I found that myself, where the more I focus on trying to please a brand or make content to try to get out there, it wasn't fun anymore. I felt pressure to keep producing content in that way versus producing content the way that I like seeing it. So, it takes me longer. It's not as view worthy. It doesn't get as much likes, but it just feels better this way.
Well, I think that brands are underrating you then because, Star is great and I'm glad to see her succeeding. But, I think that as far as a polished side of things, I mean, you're definitely more polished.
It's just, I guess it's just the skin in the game, I guess, because, I mean, but the thing you also got to remember is that I guess you could say like quality over quantity, right?
Mm-hmm.
I still see in Star's content, I see quality and quantity. She posts
her
ridiculously, but I see what you're saying. A lot of her stuff is a lot of run and gun type stuff too.
Well, what I should have clarified. I'm talking about her YouTube presence.
Oh, with her YouTube.
Her yeah. So like her Instagram, she's using a combination of professional photography and her own personal photography, and it's a really good mix. And you're right, that content is really fantastic, and that's where she's got a lot of her sponsorships. Yeah. But at the same time, like some of the stuff that she's doing, she's kind of using YouTube to advertise it, and I think that on your end, your YouTube content is such a high production value that I don't know. I can't imagine that brands wouldn't be able to benefit from working out some sort of a deal with you. Even if because here's the thing, like there's an old saying that's true. Like any publicity is good publicity. Even if someone's saying something bad about you, it's going to get people Googling, and they may disagree with whatever that person said is bad. So like, let's say you said you hated whatever fairing you threw on your bike, right? Well, someone else might Google it and be like, you know what? I like that fairing. I'm going to throw it on my bike.
I'm going to say this based on the amount of effort, and this isn't to down anybody else's channel, the amount of effort that I put into my videos, effort is relative, right? The amount of I put a lot of effort in my videos, but that's not downplaying how much effort somebody else put into theirs. But I've noticed in motovlogging, in this community, in this space, nobody cares about how good your picture looks. And I say that because the channels that are winning at this, I'm just gonna say that on the quality level, it's not where I feel like my videos are. I don't feel like Chase on Two Wheels videos are, and some of the higher end channels, because people just don't care about that. What they care about is the bike, and they care about the ownership of the bike. And that's something that I kind of tailored towards when I wrecked the bobber. I didn't have a bike to ride. So what I started doing, I started filming other people working on their bike and the whole lifestyle aspect of the bike, because that's what motovlogging is. It's about telling the story and showing your adventure. And the more I put effort into it, I was like, why aren't these videos getting views? And then I would go look at other people's videos. I'm like, dang, that's a really cool video. I was like, they're doing this with a cell phone. They're doing this with like an older GoPro. The footage isn't color accurate. The footage is grainy. And then that's what I realized, like, nobody really cares about it. Like, they just don't. And what these brands want, they want to get their product out to the most people that they can. So, they're not going to flock to the person that has like 1,000 views on the video that's pretty. They're going to flock to the person that has the video that just has the most views. So at least that's the way I look at it. I'm not agreeing with it, but that's just what I see.
Yeah, and that's a valid point. And I think that I can probably imagine some of the channels you're talking about. And what I think is probably happening there too is that people enjoy feeling like they know someone, and a lot of those channels, a lot of those channels, they'll do the whole thing where they also kind of make themselves a personality. It's like, yeah, they're shooting with their phone, but they're showing themselves, they're talking,
it's more
the camera.
relatable.
So yeah, they're kind of relating to people, and that's something that I've considered with my own content, is that I tend to not like to be the center of attention so much as the bike. You know, but
well, see, but I will say this, not to cut you off. I think there is a balance that you have to have with motorcycle channels, because you have to bring some kind of value to the table. Obviously, if you don't have the personality, I feel like you have to have a bike that people want to see.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I feel like I have a pretty decent personality, but at the same time, my audience wanted to see a new Indian on my channel. They wanted to see the next bike. And I was like, I'm not about to pay $30,000 for a motorcycle, or $20,000 for, realistically, $20,000 for a motorcycle for them to be interested for a month. Then they want to know what mods that I'm doing to it. Because like I said, it's really about the bike. And then really the bike is the center of attention, right? The lifestyle that the bike brings, and that person is an extension of that. But when you fall down that rabbit hole of now modding my bike, you have to keep that up. And you and I both know that costs money.
Oh, yeah.
And I do feel like for you to grow fast like that, or to really gain that growth that a lot of people look for when they motovlog, is that you have to have money to build these bikes, or at least have the bike, or at least have some kind of crazy bike project or access to many different bikes to keep it fresh. Because, riding and doing a motovlog, at some point it gets stale. Just like riding around the neighborhood, same neighborhoods, you get stale from riding. People are going to get stale from watching the same video. So I do feel like the barrier to entry used to be just having a camera and motovlogging. Now I feel like the barrier to entry is who has the most interesting content. And then having the money to keep it going, which is why people are doing the build series. They're giving away bikes, and, it's about who can get access to the newest bikes. And it's just a never-ending saga of new. Yeah, but go ahead.
No. I mean, you're making a great point. And I was just scrolling through your feed real quick, and you're absolutely right, though, about the bike stuff. Because, for instance, I'm looking at your numbers for watches, and they're fairly consistent across the board. And then you get to the word victory gets in your title, and you go to 26,000 views, right? And then let's see, you I scroll through, and you got a lot of more consistency, and then you get down to Indian, the FTR, and you 5,000 views, right? Which is not as much of a spike, but it's a bit of a spike. And then you get to Harley-Davidson, and you get 18,000 views. So I definitely see where it's going. BMW R18, 19,000. So you're absolutely right. Although, look at this. Your M109 is the worst motorcycle I've ever owned, got 97,000. So
that was a drama-filled video.
Yeah.
But yeah, when the bike is the center point, that gets a lot of views. Like I remember the BMW R18 video, like the very first one when they came out with the R2, that was like 80,000 views. I mean, there are channels that are killing it at this, but to me, it comes down to what's your purpose for your channel, right? Like Moto Bob, for instance. Moto Bob, I don't know if you ever heard of him.
Mm-mm.
So Moto Bob is he's out of the UK. He started doing customizations on his bike and stuff, because we had a long conversation about this, and he found out that people really like bike news. Again, keeping it fresh. You can never run out of bike news. He's always doing comparisons to bikes he's ridden, and now he's pretty much a bike journalist. That's his thing. And we talked about what it takes to really grow outside of anomalies just blowing up from I guess having the latest, greatest bikes and the greatest mods. But we were buying a new bike from a return on investment perspective really doesn't make sense. Because for instance, most of these bikes now on average are probably outside of the starter class bikes. So bikes on average probably 10 grand, 15 grand. Mm-hmm. I mean, you would have to make that much money just to break even taxes and all that just for it to make sense. And a lot of YouTubers aren't making that within a year, just to have that bike. So we were like, it doesn't, like for me, for instance, people wanted me to buy that new Indian, the new Challenger. That's starting out 20, I guess after taxes, $23,000, $24,000 bike. It would take me years to recoup the cost of that bike. And it just doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then that's just the bike. That's not the mods. That's not the maintenance. That's not everything that's associated with owning that bike. So it's just like, in most cases, it just doesn't make sense. So the question is, how do you grow in an already saturated niche market like motovlogging, stand out and still have fun with it to the point where you don't get burned out because you're like, oh, I'm not growing on this platform. What do I do? So That's when I just got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm going to start making content that I like. If it's a video about some new bike within my niche, cool. And I'm just going to focus on making better videos.
So what about the merch route? Because, there's a number of different ways to monetize YouTube, right? I mean, the ad revenue, right, from what I understand, is pretty much a pittance. I mean, you have to have millions of views before that's really going to take you out of a day job, it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So
I've thought about merch. I have ideas because I also have a Patreon. I have people that donate to see stuff early, behind the scenes stuff. I just really don't have a design, or I haven't come up with in my head how I want to do it. Mm-hmm. So that's really what's holding me up as far as merch. I thought about not really selling, but giving really nice prints of my photography to certain people. Maybe I thought about that. Outside of that, I really haven't thought about anything.
Because have you heard of, I think Queen Sit is what she goes by?
Yes. I actually hit her up a few days ago. Yeah, Erica.
Have you seen her merch?
Yeah, man, her merch is dope.
It's awesome.
Like, I need help. I was like, I need help making a t-shirt. And she's like, I've survived her Instagram spam folder. So, I can get easy access to talking to her. And she was like, she'd help. But it really comes down to, I just don't know what I want to put on the shirt.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I don't necessarily want to do a shirt. I thought about doing like custom Guardian bells, for instance. The ROI isn't really makes sense on the custom Guardian bell. But like I said, it was for like, maybe I'll give it to my patrons, the people that give me money outside of this platform, just for a thank you for really giving a damn.
Have you considered hats?
I've thought about a hat. I actually had a logo that I put in a video a long time ago. I think it was when I went to the International Motorcycle Show. I had it in there, and I thought about putting it on in a few quotes. But I wear a lot of, my hair, obviously, have to wear a hat now. But no, that definitely was a thought. But again, it comes back to the design and how I want to do it, because I have this idea about infusing Pablo Picasso with Brandon Bicasso and motorcycles, but I just don't know how to fit it all together. But I have a sketchbook of me just going back and forth. So more than likely, I'm just going to reach out to an artist and say, hey, take this, make something of it, and show me.
I was just going to say, a lot of people work with designers. They come with their idea, they kind of tell them, and that's what I do with my logos. So, I don't know if you've seen my Modern Squid logo.
Yeah, that's a really cool logo.
Thanks. But I just had this idea of a squid's legs turning into a motorcycle shape, and I messaged someone who does logos, and I said, hey, this is my idea. What can you do with it? Right. And she sent me like 5 different variations of a squid turning into a motorcycle with its legs. And they were all pretty good, so I was able to pick the one I liked the most. And she was really cool. I was like, you know what? I like the motorcycle from this one's legs, but I like the head from this one's legs. Right. Can you swap them? And it was a fun, creative process. And at the end of the day, I came up with something that I liked, and it didn't cost me too much money. And I'm working through one right now for Desert Mofo, which is my main, my main name, I guess.
Yeah, that's why I watched that's why I was watching the podcast from.
Yeah, so I host the podcast on all the normal podcast apps. So if someone has like Apple Podcasts or whatever. You can listen to it there. But I figure some of the folks who follow me come from YouTube, so I might as well just toss it up on YouTube. And the folks who prefer having the YouTube thing can do it there. But 2 hours is a long time for a YouTube video.
Yeah, absolutely.
People don't make it through 2 hours of YouTube videos usually.
Yeah, I normally put the podcast on double speed. I do a lot of Audible, so yeah, I definitely put stuff on double speed because I want to get through it more without spending too much time because I like watching stuff to the end. But yeah,
what's your podcast called?
Oh, I don't have a podcast.
Oh, I thought you were saying
no. I listen to I listen to a lot of podcasts on Audible and Spotify. And I put them on double speed to get through them so I get more done in a shorter period of time.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. I'm following now. Yeah, I'm on Spotify and Breaker and like basically every one of the podcasting hosts. I think. So, but yeah, like I said, I mean, the YouTube thing, I just wanted to give people who might be coming from YouTube an opportunity to just stay in one place if they don't necessarily want to, try to download an episode or whatever. I think, what is it, like 30-40% of the population listens to podcasts now regularly, but then that means there's like 60% that doesn't. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So what do you have any plans for a new bike? Though I know we're talking about it doesn't make sense to buy, this and that, but everyone, like we were talking earlier, there's always N+1, right? So do you have any plans in mind that are kind of closer to reality, or are they all still sort of like, oh, it'd be nice to have an adventure bike or a dirt bike or whatever?
Based on the type of riding that I do now and the time that I have, I'm probably going to, and plus it would be something that I could market on the channel because that's what my audience wants. It also needs to be something that I want. I actually reached out to a guy a few days ago trying to buy a bike, and basically somebody got to it first. So I've been looking at more of a muscle bike because that's what I do is muscle cruisers, around town, a lot of commuting, things like that. And that's what I've been doing. So yeah, I am looking at another bike.
Okay. Was it a V-Rod?
Yes, it is a V-Rod.
Was it really?
So if somebody watches it, yeah, it is a V-Rod.
Oh, cool. V-Rod. Yeah, I figured if I was thinking of SEO, I was thinking, if he could buy a muscle bike that was great for SEO, what would it be? Oh yeah, a V-Rod.
It's a V-Rod. So if somebody's watching now you know.
Oh, that's cool.
Because a lot of people are thinking it's a Challenger. It's like, it's not really a secret, but obviously when I reveal it, it's going to be huge because, a lot of my audience has been waiting for it. But, like right now, again, my fiance and I just bought a house. She told me, Brandon, just get the bike. I was like, no, it doesn't make sense. Why do I need to I can't live on I can, but I don't want to live on a bike. I need a house. Get the house first, then I get the bike.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but out of the 7 or 8 bikes I've owned, 6 of those, or 85% of percentages, used bikes. It's just, I don't see the point in spending all that money on something new without getting something back out of it. Like, granted, you can get YouTube out of it, but the ROI, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I was supposed to buy a V-Rod, and I just got there too late, man. Got there too late.
It's really funny how they were basically the most hated Harley-Davidsons besides the Street Series.
Yeah.
But they still have a huge following.
If I wholeheartedly believe that if they had stuck with the V-Rod, they would be in a much different position than they are now.
I think that they needed a different design. I think their biggest issue with the V-Rod was the aesthetics.
Well, not necessarily. Okay, let me rephrase. The platform. I'll say that. If they kept that platform and put it into more bikes, I think with different designs and stuff like that. Well, back then, people would have been warmed up to it by now. It would have taken them, because now they came off the Liquid Cool platform now, and people are like, oh, I don't want that. But if we did this back in the 90s, you've had 20 years to come to terms with this is happening, or it's already happening, and now you're used to it, and now it's out of the way. The slump has happened, now we're back up. But now it's like the slump happened, and slump, and now we're just slumping. So,
Well, I'm getting ready to do a prediction video about Harley. And I basically have all my
Me
data.
Too.
Are you? Nice.
Yeah, I have one written, man. Again, procrastination. I've had that video written up for about a month now. I had to go back and do research about the Ronald Reagan era. I mean, not Ronald Reagan. What president was it?
So Nixon or something?
Them. Yeah. No, it was Ronald Reagan. I'm thinking of Nixon and Watergate. No, Reagan, when he helped them with the tariffs to stop the foreign competition, and
so you're going the Fort 9 route. Yeah.
Yeah, but here's the thing. That Fort 9 did not put in that video. And I didn't obviously go through the thousands of comments there. They made it, they spun that video as if Harley-Davidson reached out to them solely for help from the foreign competition, when in reality, at the time, the Japanese were cheating in not only auto, but raw materials, because they were actually dumping artificially inflating prices to drive out competition in that market. So when Harley-Davidson reached out to the government about it, they were like, hey, they're artificially selling their bikes higher than they would be selling this in Japan. So we can't compete in this way. And then Motley Fool and a few other investment blogs pretty much said at that time, Harley-Davidson didn't really benefit from sales while the tariffs were in place, but more so they had time to catch up in competition and make their bikes better. So people were pretty much thinking, oh, they're whining. They're complaining they can't win, so they had to go to the government and get tariffs put in. And then even when the tariffs were in place, the Japanese built factories on U.S. soil to get around the tariffs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I was like, so that whole video came out, and why I agree with it. I was like, dang, they really left out the really important piece about all of this that really kind of didn't make Harley-Davidson look as bad, because there were other companies complaining, hey, how are they able to sell this at, I don't know, $5 and I have to sell mine at 15, but in Japan, they're not selling this for $5. And that's illegal. So really, they were against companies that were cheating. Yeah.
It's always more complicated when it comes to economics, People like to try to simplify it down and suit whatever agenda they've got. But,
I mean, I'm not saying that that's what they were trying to do, but I just really felt like it was really important. Like, when you say like, oh, they reached out because they needed help and they couldn't win and they had to go ask the government to help. And it's like, in reality, that wasn't the full story. And then they didn't even really benefit from it sales-wise. So, yeah. But no, yeah. I don't think that was the agenda, but I was like, dang, when I really did the research, I was like, that's a really important piece that I feel like a lot of people took and ran with because they just didn't know it.
Mm-hmm. Well, so you're going, I think, in the more of an explanation as to what the history was, and mine is more focused on the future and Jochen Zeitz.
Well, yes and no, but the way I was going to spin it is more so, this is how we got here.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I think they should be doing in terms of, because personally, I think Harley-Davidson should go private.
Well, I think that would be, if they didn't have Jochen Zeitz, I would be right there with you.
Okay.
But because I think whoever brought him on board was a genius, because I think that he's going to really help and turn Harley around. And, my prediction, of course, is at the end of the day that he's going to turn Harley-Davidson around. They're going to be a fantastic company in 5 years. But what I'm kind of trying to wrestle with right now is the specifics, because I've went through all the ways that he turned around Puma.
Yeah.
Puma, right? And I've created all my slides. Like, I've got all the graphics put together to kind of compare the history of how he did it there and what's happened so far here. And then that's when I move into my prediction side, which is I'm still kind of nailing down what's going on. And actually, as the longer I wait, the more is revealed. Because I'm like some of the stuff I was thinking about. But anyway, it's
I still say put it out there. put it out there.
Oh, I'm definitely going to.
Somebody will want to hear it. Yeah. Well, when I say put it out there, don't be discouraged from like, oh, it's already out there. Somebody's already made the video, or somebody's.
No. I mean, some of the things I was considering predicting are already coming. Yeah. Some like, for instance, I was going to be predicting who they'd be working with.
Oh, okay.
As far as like actors are concerned. And then as soon as I had started writing down who I thought they'd be working with, you come to find out they're doing The Long Way Up with Ewan McGregor.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so it's already
like electric bikes and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think they're taking the I want to see if they had to have modified them for off-road because they're riding in all these
suspension.
Yeah, they can't be stock. There's no way because those live wires are street bikes,
Yeah. But here's not to get too far off topic and run over time, but
it's all right.
The reason why I think they should have, or probably should have done it, taken Harley-Davidson private, is because outside of financials, which I don't think this can probably fix, Harley-Davidson has a image problem. A lot of people won't ride Harley-Davidson no matter what they do simply because it's Harley-Davidson. And I grew up as one of those people. I was always told Harley-Davidson sucks. Harley-Davidson is expensive. And the more we see them turn around and the more we see negative stuff comes out, channels like Fort 9 and Long Way Home, and there's another channel that they make videos on that demise, that drama, and I've done it too. But the point is, I guess I'm making is, we don't need to see that. I don't think we need to see that because it just adds to the sting that's already there. Like, I just know I know people that would never buy a Harley Davidson simply because of Harley Davidson, no matter how good the bike is, they would not buy it because it's Harley Davidson.
Yeah.
And I think that's gonna plague them for a long time. And there's people that won't ride Indian because they feel like it's not a true Indian. Because it's not, because the Indian name changed hands so many times. They're like, oh, that's not an Indian, it's a Polaris. But when I look at Puma and I look at Nike, I feel like the shoe game and the clothing game is just so different from something is like a motorcycle. I feel like there's more soul attached to a bike than it is a clothing brand, at least the way I look at it. Because there are people that will fight over these motorcycles. A Sturgis, and maybe it's just the older generation, maybe our generation, they're not as attached to these brands as our parents and everybody older than us is. But I just feel like the more, even what's his name, Zeiss?
Yeah, Zeiss.
Yeah, even though he may be the wizard that's needed to turn this thing around, like shutting down dealerships and streamlining the brand or streamlining the number of bikes, which they should have been doing anyway. But what I do think he's messing up with, I feel like he's catering more towards those people that they shouldn't be catering towards, and more towards the younger generation. But at the same time, we don't have the money, or we don't want to spend the money on the bike. But I don't know. I just think it's a lot more difficult, obviously, to turn around a motorcycle brand that is a clothing brand. But at the same time, I feel like we don't need to see it. We don't need to see the turnaround. Just do it. But we don't need to see the financials. We don't need to see like Harley-Davidson's stock is down this quarter. They missed this sale, this revenue, all that, because people are just gonna take it. They're just gonna run with it.
See, you hit the nail on the head though, and you actually made the point for me as to why I think Jochen Zeitz is going to be able to do this. And you started off by saying Harley-Davidson has an image problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he knows that.
He does, and his background is marketing. He started out in the marketing department of Puma, and the entire way that he basically turned Puma around, in conjunction with the normal stuff you have to do in a business, right? Which is streamlining processes and making sure your costs are under control. Outside of that, he focused a lot on the branding. And so you talked about Harley-Davidson being expensive. I was just shopping for bikes, and I've mentioned it in a few of my videos, but I actually did an entire video where I plotted out the price of every Harley and every other cruiser I could find. And Harleys are basically average price bikes. They are no more expensive.
I'm not okay. Well, I will say this. I'm not gonna fully agree with that because I think Indian is in the same boat. There's something called an American V twin tax.
All I'm gonna say is this. Okay. Everyone says it, and I heard it too. And I went to every website for the different manufacturers, pulled the base model price right off their website, put it into a chart, and graphed it.
But
so
go ahead.
So, it really depends on what you mean. And everyone's like, okay, well, then you upgrade it. I'm like, every motorcycle channel I watch, people upgrade their bikes. Right. It doesn't matter if you got an Indian. I mean, you heard at least some of my interview with Star, right? Indians are a beautiful bike, but what does she do? She's immediately changing her bobber to fit her. The same thing with I watch people who have Groms, right? Even a Grom, people chop them up, turn them into different like trick bikes and stunt bikes and ninjas. People do the same sort of thing. Like they want to swap out the exhaust, they want to put in new brakes. Like they're doing all these things to make it theirs. So I don't know that there's any kind of Harley tax in that you have to spend more money to make it yours, because I think everyone wants to modify their bike. And with Harley, especially like the models that have been around the longest, you have such a wide variety of aftermarket parts. It's like, yeah, you can go to the dealership and spend big money on parts, right? But you can also get on eBay and get something for $10 that would be, $100 at the dealership and be just as cool to you. So,
but I think the data doesn't take into account the Harley-Davidson culture.
I'm just talking about price. I'm just talking about price, though.
I mean, it also comes down to value that you're getting from the motorcycle. Because when I originally bought my Indian, I was looking at the Fat Bob. The Fat Bob was several $1,000s more, and I still felt like I got more value with the Indian. The same thing with Indian now. You get power lock bags, you get power up and down windshield, and overall fit and finish. Some people would say that, yeah, it may be better on the Harley, but when you look at things like when I say the American V twin tax, there's the thought that you have to put more money into a Harley to get the same amount of performance you would in a bike that's cheaper.
But that's assuming you want performance, right? Value is a function of not just price, but also what you want out of the bike, right? So you're right.
Absolutely.
If you want those fancier accoutrements on a bike, then Harley is more expensive. But if your goal is to get a cool bike to ride and enjoy, and you're comparing, the different models of the different cruisers, then it's going to fall right in line. Now, you're absolutely right. Like I hate like digital displays. So for me,
really?
Oh my God, like the FTR.
I thought it should have been the other way around.
No, the FTR, it's got that display and people rave about it.
I love the display.
I think it looks like a hideous Nintendo Switch, and I don't know why anyone would want that on their bike, along with the gold forks.
I want to see more of that. I want to see more connectedness.
See, but this is how we're different, right? So that's why it's harder to judge value, which is why I kind of left that off, because some people are gonna be like, oh, this exhaust should have been put on there, or this brake should have been put on there, and then someone else would have been like, no, because those brakes do this, or that exhaust does that, and so it's harder to kind of quantify the value. So, but you are right. That's where they're lacking.
Yeah, anyway. When you break it down like that, and absolutely, because I mean, you can always say like, well, this bike has a nicer this, and this bike has a lesser that, but but when you put the data down, and if the prices are similar, then they're just similar.
Yeah, again, it all depends, and the reason again I can't make it like a black and white statement per se is that there is always going to be that gray of what is someone's expectations out of a motorcycle, right? Because mine is I want as little digital crap on my bike as possible, and someone else might be like, well, why don't I have rider modes on this?
Right.
Shouldn't everyone have ABS and rider modes? And I'm like, I don't want ABS or rider modes on my bike. So
right. Okay.
Anyway, it was a fun video to make. I was actually expecting more people to come back and make your argument, and not many people really said anything about it. They just kind of like watched it and were like, oh, interesting.
Wait, what were you talking about?
The video where I put up the prices and showed the charts.
Oh, I didn't see it.
No, not you specifically.
Watch that. Oh, okay.
I was just saying when I put that up, I thought I was going to get more pushback.
No, man! Like I think people understand that the prices are more in line or slightly more on the edge of one or the other, but overall, people just don't feel like they get the value with Harley-Davidson. Mm-hmm. Like I know a lot of people that even have Harleys that'll say, "Yeah, I spent a lot of damn money on this bike." And I'm like, well, are you happy with it? Yeah. And they'll be like, well, you got the value out of it, but I just don't see the value in spending that for that when I can get this for this. Because I had a friend that had the Indian Scott Bobber. And like you said, the aftermarket parts, he felt like there wasn't enough aftermarket for it. So eventually he sold it and got the Fat Bob. Me, I saw it the other way around. I didn't want the Fat Bob because I felt like it was too much and I wasn't getting the value that at least my expectation was a lot lower versus the money I would have had to spend for the Fat Bob. So I went and got the Indian.
Yeah. Well, here's another aspect to that though. I mean, bikes even stock, most of us can't really outride the performance of the bike.
Absolutely. 100%.
I mean, if you're going over 100 miles an hour on the highway anyway, you're already getting yourself in some trouble if anyone catches you.
But I'm gonna ask you this though, and again, I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole. Why Harley-Davidson? Why do we say this about Harley-Davidson, but we don't say this about, not necessarily Indian, but we don't say this about Triumph. We don't say this about Honda or Suzuki or Yamaha or Kawasaki or Royal Enfield or KTM. Why do we say that, Harley-Davidson bikes are just too expensive?
Well, I think that it stems from the part of their life when everything at Harley was on back order and you had to get on a waiting list and pay to be on a waiting list to get a Harley. And the bikes that they were putting out right there were having oil leaks on the sales room floor.
I remember it.
Right.
That. And that's another thing. Like, it leaks. It's only good to sit in the park. You have to put a cardboard box, a paper bag under the bike sitting in the parking lot.
Yeah. So, there was a time when people wanted Harley so bad that they were willing to be bidding over the MSRP. And again, they were making them crappy, and the value really wasn't. I mean, you want to talk about value not being there. The value really wasn't there. But that, at the end of the day, shows you the power of marketing, right? Right. People wanted those bikes so much, even when they were leaking oil on a showroom floor, that they were willing to go on a waiting list and pay over MSRP to get them. So anyway, I think Jochen Zeitz is going to use marketing to kind of turn them around. I think he's going to restrict supply, and I do think they're going to increase the tech on them and make them a little bit more higher end.
Yeah. I mean, because in reality, just like any other brand, really, there's way too many Harley-Davidsons on the market to really justify buying a new one. Unless, you don't want to get a lemon or anything, because there's just so many,
Yeah, but, they hold their value really well. So sometimes the savings isn't that big going used versus new, depending on what model you're looking at. Mm. And also, to kind of get back a little bit to Jochen, one of the first things he did at Puma was start making the shoes with better materials and better workmanship and craftsmanship. So I think that one of the things he'll do at Harley is start paying more attention to the things that may be subpar compared to their competitors, and bump that up before they start bumping up prices and restricting supply.
I was about to say, because I know back in the day when Harley-Davidson went public, no, it wasn't when it went public, when they changed hands with
AMF,
the quality dropped so bad.
Yep.
I wasn't there to experience it, but based on history, it's like the quality wasn't there. And then, they tried to streamline processes, and it just wasn't good. Right. But I don't think Harley-Davidson has a quality issue, but it's definitely that brand,
I think they fixed the quality, like you said, but the branding is still off.
But let me ask you this, though. Do you think they make bikes that are out of the price range of the people that matter? Or I guess they're trying to find out who really does matter?
Well, let me say this. for instance, when I was doing my photography stuff, I never cared about being affordable. The people who want affordable are typically the harder to deal with too. I just saw, I'm still in a bunch of photography groups, and someone just put up a post that is very irrelevant. And what they basically said was, they'll have a client that pays $5,000 for a photo shoot, and they send an invoice, it's paid within 10 days. Then they'll have a client who only paid $100, and they'll have to keep tracking them down and hounding them for the money, and they start complaining about the pictures. And so I think as you go up the chain of people's spending, it's more profitable, number one, and sometimes it's less of a hassle to deal with folks who have the money where it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, absolutely. I can agree with that. I mean, because at that point, people care more. I'm not going to say care more, I guess, but
they're more image conscious.
Right.
I think people who spend a lot of money, I had a family member in the past who made a lot of money, and she always wanted to have the best of whatever she bought. So, and it wouldn't even matter if it was objectively the best. It had to be kind of like the most famous, so if she bought a handbag, it had to be the most like famous handbag. Same thing with the car. It was like, oh, well, this is like the most famous car. So look what I've got.
Just about the brand.
Exactly. It is. It was all about the brand. So I think if Harley goes that route, they'll be more profitable, and they're going to make a lot of people angry. Because
I mean, I feel like they should have made a lot of people angry a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I feel like they didn't want to. They didn't want to take that. Well, and that's the thing about being public, right? That's one of the things is pleasing shareholders, and having to take that hit in the public eye that, oh, we're not doing what our shareholders want, or we're not performing in the interest of the shareholders, which is to make money, make a return on that investment, versus saying, screw the people that have bought bikes up to this point. You guys are not riding. You guys aren't going to be here in the next 15, 20 years riding. You need to be looking at the people like the up and coming riders and, et cetera. And yeah. So they're going to have to, somebody's going to be mad regardless. And and I'm sure you can agree, I don't think Zeiss cares.
No, I think that he's proven before that what he cares about is turning a company around in the most strategic way possible. That should be the bottom line. As a matter of fact, he's mentioned before, like his plans are long-term plans. Like he doesn't pursue the short-term shareholder value, which really dooms a lot of companies, not just motorcycle manufacturers. It's that quarterly financial reporting. And then sometimes CEOs just manage to the quarter instead of having a real long-term plan. And it just drives the company into the ground, because you can't have a new plan every 3 months, just to make sure that your share prices are going up.
Yeah. Right.
So anyway, that's enough about me and my Harley love. What about all your friends? It seems like a lot of them ride Indian. What brings them to Indian, you think?
So I was the first person in my group to get an Indian, but they were the first people. They both bought. So the two main people, they started out on M109s, and I had my M50 Suzuki. They eventually upgraded to Victory Magnums, and I eventually got my M109. We all had M109s. Then they got Victory Magnums, and then I got the Indian Scout Bobber. Then they both traded their Victory Magnums in for Indian Chieftains.
Okay.
And then my friend Lenora, she bought her black Indian Chieftain. Then my friend James, he bought his Victory Magnum, and it's just been a Polaris shindig, just like that.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, Polaris, they run a really good company. Even through this pandemic, they've been doing really great. I mean, they've got a pretty diverse portfolio of outdoorsy stuff like boats, four-wheelers, like ATVs.
It's pretty much do it all.
Yeah, and they've been kicking ass financially compared to a lot of other companies. But yeah, I mean, I think Indians are nice too. That's why when I was talking to Scout and I was seeing the FTR, I was a little bit shocked because they make such beautiful bikes, and the FTR to me was only okay. Which when you set that bar so high, it's like when everything you put out is beautiful, the first time you put out something that's only okay, the contrast is too big. You know what I mean?
like the FTR. I think it didn't impress me as much when I actually wrote it, but I thought the build quality on it was like top notch. Like I think they nailed it as far as all of that. But yeah, the looks are definitely take a bit to get used to. Kind of like the Indian Challenger. A lot of people didn't like the Indian Challenger.
Really? I think the Challenger is nice.
I know you don't like Farron.
I don't. Bikes, though. But I can appreciate them. You know what I mean? I can still appreciate their beauty. I just would never want one.
Right. And I'm kind of the same way. I like riding them, but for what I do and for what I ride and what I want to spend my money on, that ain't really it.
You know, what's funny to me is that if they made an FTR with a smaller exhaust and different colored forks, I might overlook the Nintendo Switch on the top and get one as a second bike.
Just get it without the Nintendo Switch on
it. Do they offer it without one?
Yeah. The standard one doesn't have it just has the Scout Bobber style dial on it, tachometer. But yeah, the S model comes with the screen.
Yeah, but again, I think the two things I don't like the most are the gigantic exhaust and the gold forks.
Yeah, those Euro emissions and all of that. Yeah.
I feel like they could have done an emission compliant exhaust without it being so big, though. Like,
I don't know what the emissions are, but they're all kind of doing that. Harley's doing it. Like the Bronx had a big exhaust on it, and all the sports bike companies are doing it too. So maybe it's just in that realm that sports bike, naked range. Like the FZ10, for instance, has that huge thing on it, that huge can on it.
I'll have to look them up again then, because I've been seeing some of the Yamahas.
Well, you know what? I'm wrong, because I think the FZ07 has a small can on it. Now that I think about it,
and some of them are putting them underneath the tail.
Yeah, you're right.
But
so maybe I'm thinking the Super Sports. The Super Sports have those big cans on them.
Maybe you're right. Because otherwise, I mean, the bike itself looks like it would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic, fun bike. It's fun to ride, but it's just like, if I'm getting money, if I'm going to spend the money on something like this, there are other bikes I think I would rather buy, like the FZ10 with the crossplane. But I will say the FTR has a lot of soul, has a lot of character. Like, it reminds me a lot of. It made me feel special, like when I ride a Ducati Monster.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like, there's some things I would change. Like, I would put different tires on it. Like you said, you don't like the screen. I like the screen. The mirrors, just little touches. I mean, I didn't mind the forks too much, but I can see where the gold kind of gets maybe
and it seems like they're trying to look like a BMW or something.
The R9T.
Yeah, like I don't know. I just something about the gold just throws me off with that body shape. I don't know. It's aesthetics mean a lot to me with bikes, and it's one of the reasons I bought the 883. I just wanted something pretty to photograph, and I just wouldn't be inspired to take pictures of the FTR except that it was a new toy.
Well, I understand that. That's a good reason.
Yeah. But have you seen? I think her name is Portia. She is the head person for Black Girls Ride.
Black Girls Ride.
Have you seen that paint job that they just did?
Man, it's for the Challenger.
Oh my God.
It's wild.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. So anyway, that's like, I'm seeing that, and then I'm seeing the FTR, and I'm seeing that, and then I'm seeing the FTR, and I'm like, I don't know, man.
Did you see Hartluck's Challenger?
No, I haven't.
Kerry Hartluck's? Yeah, he had his. His was one of the first ones that was done that way. His has like this blue reddish look to it. Yeah, it's really nice.
Is he on Instagram?
You might have to scroll for it a bit.
Hartluck.
Yep.
It's not Kerry Hartluck, is it?
Yeah, Kerry Hartluck. Yeah.
First one. Okay.
It's on there. It's like
first picture. Pictures. Yeah. First picture.
Is it the first one?
Behind the yellow one, right? That blue one with the gray.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
Sorry for anyone listening on the podcast, but if you go to Hartluck on Instagram, Hartluck, his picture dated today's date, which I think is what is today? Like the fourth, yeah. You can see what we're looking at, but he has a beautiful blue silver with like a little bit of red accent color in it. It is a gorgeous bike. Wow. Anyway, yeah. So the Challenger, like every other bike they make, is beautiful. All right. Well, Brandon, it's been good talking to you. I really do appreciate it. And it sounds like we might have a part 2 in our future. So I'll let everyone know when that comes up. Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of the Modern Squid Podcast. To see more from Brandon Bicasso, you can either follow him on YouTube at Brandon Bicasso, or you can find him on Instagram also at Brandon Bicasso. If you don't want to search and you just like a link, you can go to my website, themodernsquid.com, and all of his links will be there as well. If you're watching this on YouTube, the links will also be in the description. Thanks again, and see you all next week.